A guy was seen running from something but ended up at a dead end. He started slowing down, trying to find a way to get out of there somehow, but it was too late as there was already a small sword to his neck throat, slitting it while he screamed for mercy. As the scene changes to the next day, we can see our MC, Araji Kai, a 17-year-old kid. Araji being pissed off visiting school daily, even after standing as an assassin. Back in the classroom, he casually entered and was wished a pretty good morning from the school president, Medu. Araji Kai didn't even pay attention as such a character was not liked by the fashion queen of the class, Rina. Both of them had a bit of chit-chat about him, and soon entered Arashi, the leader of a delinquent gang. He too went directly to Araji Kai, expecting a warm wish, but ended up being pissed, which made him try to grab the boy by hand expectedly. It was blocked, pissed. The boy, Araji Kai, was about to unveil his assassin skills, but then just let him off with a deadly scare. Kanzaki tried to interrupt in between, and as Arashi turned towards her, he faced the anger of the most disciplined committee girl, Hashimoto. Lazy ones were also taking part in the conversation, and he was introduced to be Narumi Yoshia. That was the first year of Class 2 students and thereby passing a normal day in high school. However, soon Araji Kai noticed something unusual at the feet of Mido as there was a dark blue light inscribed on a magic circle, and before anyone could comprehend or gasp at the situation, that magic circle expanded to cover the entire classroom. The next moment, when they opened their eyes, they were all on the floor at an unknown location, and before everyone could wake up, Araji Kai started finding information about his location. Others woke up after a while, and all of them were filled with numerous questions in different words, so the class representative stepped up to calm everyone like a true leader. As expected, the delinquent head, Arashi, did not pay attention and decided to walk off with his subordinate, but was stopped as someone was approaching from the only exit gate, one being a man and another being a woman. As soon as the gate opened, we could see a lady properly dressed, being guarded by an old man looking quite experienced. She identified them as hero candidates, stunning every boy and leaving a question in their minds. Cosplay or something. Araji Kai immediately hit himself against a pillar and quickly realized this was a serious conversation with a lady having a natural appearance. One introduced herself as Leonora, the Archbishop of the Holy Country, accompanied by Gaius the Knight. Arashi stepped up for the conversation, and as he said, he was using some harsh words for the first interaction. So Midu came up with an apology and politely asked about the current situation. All of his classmates were confused in simple terms. Leonora revealed that all of them had been summoned from a parallel world as a hope to defeat the Demon King, given the title of hero candidate. Still, all those words went over the heads of normal students, and as Arashi was one of the leads, he ended up in a banter with the knight. Gaius decided to teach the boy a lesson immediately, taking his guard with the sword. Even though the Archbishop interrupted to stop her knight, Arashi ran off to punch him, thinking of dodging the first attack to surprise the old man. However, everything went unexpectedly before he could comprehend his current position. He was sliced with a sword right on the forehead, stunning his other classmates. The Archbishop did not like such careless behavior from the knight, and after an apology, she asked everyone to quiet down in order to understand what their real purpose was. Actually, due to the Demon King's invasion, humanity in that world was on the verge of extinction, and as their country was a holy one, they had the responsibility to protect it. However, they were short on manpower. In short, in order to complete their task, they had one single hope: the hero candidates summoned from another world. Those high schoolers were still unable to believe they were burdened, as some of them had already started crying rivers. Gaius showed no sign of kindness in telling them that the only way they could head back to their home was after defeating the Demon King. Araji Kai realized that those words only meant to motivate them. However, one thing was sure: some random kids could not start killing people, and so would surely need experience and, above all, pure talent. Arashi, being what he is, mocked those guys for thinking they could command after bringing both students out of nowhere to the location. Gaius was impressed with the boy's fighting spirit, but after seeing him in trouble, he was about to unveil his sword but stopped as the Archbishop stepped in front to heal the boy's wounds again, giving an apology with the bright light of healing. To answer the questions in everyone's mind, she introduced it as a system granted by the gods and further declared it to be called magic in simple words. She then started walking to the class representative and bonked him on the head with a light in her palm. That thing gave him a sudden feeling, and soon he started emitting a bright light from his hand, which ended up taking the shape of the sword. Using the power of the system, hero candidates were going to inherit the ability of divine protection, keeping all pride aside. The bishop requested those kids to lend their power to save humanity. She further declared she would give them training while keeping them in custody, and then release them upon request. Mido screamed to tell other students about the situation and, in short, asked them to be a part of the huddle in order to save humanity. Others somehow agreed, so the Archbishop started giving others their divine protection. Hashimoto was granted telekinesis. Arashi was given the divine protection of explosion, and the others were also granted their part of the power. Araji Kai was the last student to step up. Soon he was granted something which changed the field of his vision as he saw a status screen against the Archbishop, revealing her complete abilities. In short, his divine protection was judgment, a rare one, which could make him see the abilities of the enemy. It took quite a time for Araji Kai to understand, and at the moment he was taking a look at it, someone tried to attack him from behind, and it was revealed to be Arashi. Even though he dodged it, he had to face laughter from the other classmates, mocking him about just the eyes and no supreme power. Araji Kai was still at a loss for words after seeing his classmates' reactions, as he understood that divine protection could be taken away, but his skills as an assassin would always be on top to kill enemies. Wishing good to the students, the Archbishop took her leave. Later that evening, the hero candidates were taken to their personal rooms, and while everyone else decided to rest, Araji Kai took the chance to gather information. At first, we heard a conversation between the soldiers about the summoning of the hero candidates being kids who could not even protect themselves. Simply, they were making fun of it while Araji Kai was keeping track of how many guards had been reinforced to their own defenses. Their status screen was that of a normal human with basic settlement skills about the geography of the castle. It was the type of fortified city, and the inner part of the castle was heavily guarded. Later that night, when diagnosed, he found the girls of his class at a corner place with an intention to test their skills for practice. Rina used her flame skill, while Leather kept practicing their telekinesis and water skills. Araji Kai decided to observe them for a while, but soon noticed a strange sensation, and as he turned, he saw a huge monster lurking toward the girls, making them scared about its real identity. Immediately, he used his judgment to find that he had quite good skills in areas of attack. As expected, it howled with its first attack, making all three girls run away for their life, following its aggressive nature. However, it showed less intelligence to Araji Kai. Fully, Araji Kai took out the small knife and launched it towards the monster, giving it a shallow cut. The monster screamed in pain and slowed down in speed. However, the girls, being girls, created another opening for it while slipping on a rock right in its face. Not long after, the monster was right on top of the lady, and before she could even blink her eyes, its paws were ready to attack her. Just then, something unexpected happened. The next moment, when Rina opened her eyes, she saw the monster was dead after a strike on the head with a sharp knife. They decided not to pay any attention to it and took it directly to their dorm. As known, it was Araji Kai who helped them get out of such a tough situation. Being a good assassin, he realized that things were not going to be easy, and just then felt another sensation of someone's presence. Even though he turned out to find out about it, he ended up making the decision to head out from the place. It was a strange man under a robe, crossing the head of the monster, being pitiful of it as a weak one. The next morning, everyone looked pretty terrified when they were introduced to the monster, which was found near the royal capital. Steady, one of the men was inquiring about the monster and revealed that it was of mid-grade reason for the arrival of the hero candidates. In short, that monster was being controlled by someone, as strong demons have selective spells. Steady began throwing knowledge out of his head in front of everyone, and it was a lot, so Gaius himself dragged that yellow head away. Araji Kai changed his attention back to the subject and wondered if his intuition about a different presence of demons was real last night. Even at that moment, such a demon was keeping an eye on all of them, and suddenly their classmates started screaming that they were not afraid of anything. Since there, the only way to head back was after defeating the Demon King, all of them decided to play their part. Realization came quickly from everyone, and after seeing some of them afraid, the Archbishop herself came forward to tell them that their training would give all of them an edge over the others as hero candidates. Since then, a week had passed, and by that time, the candidates were put to training while Araji Kai was the only one spending time in the library. Due to his skills, Araji Kai was just keeping an eye on how the others were training and soon finished reading the history about the demons. While seeing the pace of the growth of those students, he realized that everyone among them was growing at a steady pace, with 5 students being the center of attraction: Narumi, Arashi, Kanzaki, Hashimoto, and Negase. Among all of them, there was one individual with the most extraordinary growth, who even made a soldier drop his sword right on the ground, and it was the class representative, Midu. His status screen was telling a different story apart from everyone, which had grown exceptionally from D or F to A or B, as expected. When the others passed by Araji Kai, they started mocking him for not being able to use battle skills. Araji Kai realized that as soon as the others were growing, all of them were becoming impudent after acquiring power. One of the men decided to mock Araji Kai with his strength, but faced a different destiny when he fell on his head upside down in front of everyone. Just then, the Archbishop arrived with her knight, and as soon as she entered, she praised them for their exceptional growth, informing them about the change in plans where she wanted them to practice while fighting monsters. It was quite sudden for sure. Soon, everyone was moved to the forest area, and all of them were in the middle of it, which was full of obstacles in the plan. She wanted to split everyone into teams of 2 or 3 people, The first group was formed of Medo, Rina, and Hashimoto. The second was of the delinquent leader Arashi with his followers. The third group looked like a couple goals, and in the end, the only left individuals were Araji Kai and Kanzaki. Left with no options, they decided to group together, and so Araji Kai agreed. Her real character was confident and a pathetic personality, but Araji Kai didn't mind, and that's how they had a picture of themselves. The Archbishop soon announced the beginning of training, while telling them about a surprise reward awaiting them all. As the mission started, the first screen was moved to the last team where Kanzaki was telling Araji Kai just stay under her shadows, and he immediately agreed for the same, giving a picture to the lady that he did not have any pride in. On the other hand, Araji Kai had already found the presence of monsters surrounding them in the hurdle. She said those were goblins. One of them came in front of the lady, and she immediately used her divine spirit to dominate it and get back on the ground, an ability that can force the user's orders to prevail over the target. Through numerous commands, she managed to get a hold over it. However, she was looking too tired due to the continuous efforts. Araji Kai mercilessly asked her to kill it, and she was showing doubt, not keeping in mind that those were the enemies who proceeded with the first intention to kill. Following the orders, she went for the task while Araji Kai picked a stone to face the other 3 goblins standing in front of him. Before he could attack, Kanzaki again used her domination and asked Araji Kai to lend her hand as her help. Following Araji Kai's beliefs, she immediately asked those monsters to twist their necks, and they followed as commanded. Even though the order was followed, that would lower the chances of the monster being too strong in any case. It was her first time seeing the corpses she killed by herself, so she was quite stunned. However, on the other hand, Araji Kai was calm as water. When questioned, he ignored it and started inspecting the bodies of the goblins, finding nothing valuable in them. Even though the lady was quiet, she decided to head deeper into the forest, further depicting a good character with a belief to fight. As the scene changed to another team, Narumi, along with his members, was seen running from something that was not suitable for the kind of monster they had to face. In the end, when they were tired of it, they decided to go for a combined attack of Wind Blast and Block Bullet, pointing it towards the monster. Even though the attack was good, it did not leave a single scratch on the body of it, frightening the other 2. It was a huge monster, red in color, a furious one. Back while entering the depth of the forest, Kanzaki was thinking of her past life, where she had to pay in full to her grandfather for whatever he had done. Araji Kai realized that even though they were moving in a straight line, they could get lost, and his true character was revealed to be a cocky one to Kanzaki. Just then, they heard a scream. Without wasting a bit of time, she decided to move on to help her. The screen showed Hashimoto, who looked trashed with bleeding on her head. Even though Narumi was trying his best to help the lady, it was too late, as the monster had already raised its paw to deliver a dead blow against them. Suddenly, the monster was unable to move its hand due to the domination spell cast by Kanzaki. Such an effect was different from what she had done to the goblins, and after looking at the situation, Araji Kai immediately asked Narumi to take care of Hashimoto. Narumi hesitated at once, but upon insisting from Araji Kai, he left to bring more support from the background. Then, Araji Kai used his judgment skill to identify the real characteristics of that monster, and it was revealed to be a bear with a high defense spell and was being controlled. His far and thing scales were leaned towards his baseless defense. Also, Kanzaki lost her control on domination and then immediately decided to run away from it as fast as they could. Unexpectedly, Kanzaki fell right to the ground and was unable to move her legs. The monster immediately tried to attack her. However, Araji Kai took out a smoke bomb, taking the chance. He raised the lady in his arms and decided to hide. It was an embarrassing task, and about the smoke bomb, he lied about preparing it when, in other words, training. Actually, Araji Kai had all the basic necessities of an assassin before he was summoned, including a gun. At first, the lady apologized for pushing him into the danger, but ended up thanking him for saving her own life. Araji Kai just mocked her for such behavior, making her scream in embarrassment. Soon, reinforcement arrived from behind with the best team among the classmates led by Midu. He immediately activated his sword, and it was time for the battle of the day between him and the fearsome monster bear. Midu took the first step and moved forward with the sword, delivering an attack while piercing the defense of the thick scales of the bear. Megaze then used her fire magic to burn it down and somehow succeeded in delivering a point attack to it. Even though it looked good, it had no severe impact on the bear as soon as it released itself from that fire. It was approaching after having a toll on its body and was moving slower than before. All 3 of them combined their forces and decided to kill it at once. Once again, that complete battle was being overlooked by someone, and it was revealed to be the veteran assassin, Demon Delphus. He was impressed with the quick growth of the hero candidates and was most attracted to the growth of Midu. It made him change the decision on the scouting mission to an assassin one. On the other hand, Medu was on the closing of his battle, and with 3 to 4 continuous strikes of the sword, he opened all the scales of the bear, and to end it on a positive note, he killed the monster by piercing his sword inside its stomach. Delphus then only decided to head out for a move, but was struck suddenly as another knife was raised at his throat, making him stop immediately. It was Araji Kai using his judgment to have the same knowledge that one should never believe that he had defeated the enemy. Delphus decided to raise his hands while dropping the weapon. The moment he had numerous questions in his mind, including a way to escape Araji Kai. Somehow, he felt it and sliced the knee area to make him fall on the ground with a loud scream. Diagnose was thinking of asking questions, but that monster was not ready to answer every single one. Delphus too was feeling a presence from the beginning. When launching the first attack at the garden at midnight, on the other hand, Araji Kai was already 2 steps ahead, with plans to lure Delphus out of his cage. He gave once again the chance to the man on the floor to speak and face a denial. Once again, it was already getting late to make, and to make things simpler, he sliced both of his elbows, making him feel even more pain in the end when Delphus was left with no other option. He decided to use the suicide method while on poison and spit it out at the words of death. As Araji Kai was about to use his judgment to see the skill growth, he was called up by Kanzaki, being in fear, inquiring about the death of the man. She further revealed that her presence had been from the time that man was on the floor, and as Araji Kai realized, he revealed that the man was an assassin from the Demon King's army, who was controlling the bear as well as the monster they faced initially at the Royal Garden. It was obvious that they were sending monsters to kill the hero candidates, and since there was no more reason to keep things hidden, he even revealed that his own family was in the assassination business. Kanzaki was stunned to hear something like it and showed Araji Kai, even gave him a reconfirmation of the words he just wanted, that the lady shall not reveal such information to anyone, as the class will not be able to take up something like it. At once she liked the character of the boy, and he was only interested in the skills that she possessed that would be useful in the future. On the other hand, everyone was troubled about Hashimoto's current condition, and it was Shiora using her healing skills to make the condition of that kid better. It was going well, but it would take about an hour to heal. They were quickly impressed with the class representative and his subordinate by the way they managed the matter, while Kanzaki knew who the true mastermind was behind their success. There arrived the Archbishop with her god, making everyone pissed at their late arrival for rescue. Gaius just revealed casually that it was all their plan not to help, as it would not be a good practice session if he came to help every time. Even putting their lives in danger was not a question to stand, because they had to face such kinds of battles themselves. Mainu was concerned about the false information of weak monsters, and the only answer Archbishop was aware of was that there must be a demon assassin behind all of it. They decided to strengthen their defense in order to cope with such beings, and the Archbishop decided to go even harder on the hero candidates, as such levels of training were not going to give anything good out of them. Others looked really depressed and frightened with the situation. They had just witnessed and saw that the last representative stood up against it in front of Leonora. His objection was turned down by the lady immediately, further pissing off the delinquent leader Arashi, as he was not ready to face orders anyhow. Gaius' character suddenly changed, and he screamed out to tell everyone that those were all the points they needed to defeat the Demon King, and had to follow orders whenever was given. Once again, a spark was lighted between him and Arashi, but was stopped by the class representative, as he was aware that disobeying their orders would make them enemies of the nation with no chance of winning. Gaius praised the group for the interpretation, relieved him of not killing due to their importance after being summoned. Arashi once again lost his control and decided to deliver an attack in front of the old man, a surprise one in the form of a destructive blast. He had to believe that he won against him. However, expectedly, the old man used his experience and returned a powerful punch right on his left cheek, making him travel distance while kissing the floor continuously. After teaching him a lesson, he just moved away while giving them instructions to prepare themselves for the next problem they were going to face. Arashi, on the other hand, was happy in himself with a determination to kill that guy. On the day after the military drills, all of them were moved to the training area, which was being governed by the monster researcher Steady. Those who got hurt yesterday were doing good after the healing magic, and the one who was thrashed was also in good condition. Steady praised the lady with healing power and then introduced them to the research facility, where they were going to fight monsters before explaining. He decided to show them the inside of it, which was filled with goblins, lizards, devils, and ogres. The classmates were terrified, and the Archbishop praised Steady pleasingly for such a place with lots of information and data on such monsters. When the combat drills began, the first battle was between Nagase and an ogre. Araji Kai was once again impressed with the calmness among the classmates from the past training, and in the drill it was Nagase who was thrashed by the monster continuously on the floor. Maidu immediately asked his teacher to stop it and faced denial instantly due to orders from the Archbishop. He further said that Nagase was going to win, and it really happened as she used her skill in a different manner this time. With just one attack, she burned that ogre instantly. Actually, if someone increases the level of divine protection, it will give birth to new derivatives of the same. Araji-kai came from behind to tell Maidu, while using his judgment, that he had a new divine protection at level 1 added to his status screen. Maidu decided to give it a try and immediately went for the drill facing the ogre. He used his sword of evil crush along with his newly developed monster skill, which scared that monster to its toes. No mercy could be shown, and so he rushed forward against that monster and sliced one of its arms using one single attack. In the end, he won the battle with a slice to the head, leaving Araji-kai impressed and questioning in his mind if his own skills had improved in some regard or not. Further, as he looked around, he found that even Arashi had developed a new skill, but it was not like he was going to tell him anyhow. Quick info was good that they could even send their derivatives out of divine protection. Later at night, Arashi was seen gathering some of his subordinates and other classmates in order to discuss a plan where he was going to first kill Gaius, and then force the archbishop to send them back to their world. Others agreed at once, and Narumi, post-reconfirmation of winning and his past pictures of Hashimoto being hurt, decided to be a part of it. Maida was training hard along with the other classmates, and he was the one coming out the most from the training session. Even Araji-kai praised him. However, for Maidu, it was still not enough because his intention was to be overwhelmed with strength in order to defeat the Demon Lord. But when Araji-kai asked him about his views on the Archbishop, he clearly depicted that he was aware of the filthy intentions of those guys, but in order to save his classmates, he was ready to obey their orders. Or in short, he had already made up his mind to defeat the Demon King. His plan was to complete the task and then negotiate on the exchange, and every swing was for the same reason. In the middle of the session, the Archbishop once again arrived along with her knight to tell Steady that she was going to be away for a few days, and he would be in charge of the candidates in the meantime. Both of them left, and that boy had a lovely smile on his face. On the way back, the knight reconfirmed her move to leave things like that when Arashi was already planning something. The Archbishop kept her calm even after knowing of rebellious behavior, and she was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do during all that time. She had a smile on her face because she believed that no one could beat her ever. Her plan was to crush that rebellion by creating, and in the meantime, scenes turned to nighttime, and Araji-kai was seen training with monsters while defeating them continuously in a single attack. His status screen was showing an increase in his characteristics, and the only reason he was able to understand the growth was defeating the assassin. Just then, an ogre tried to slam on the floor, but he managed not only to dodge it, but tried to slice it using 3 knives in a single attack. Unexpectedly, all of it did not pierce due to its thick scales, and that is why he decided to use his new skill attribute, which was weak point detection. The back of the head of the ogre was marked, and he jammed up to deliver a knife piercing right to it. He emerged out to be the winner, but realized that there is a requirement of a lot in order to survive. His training went even more intense, and now, to practice his skills even more, he used his skills in defeating even the goblins. He was searching for a bigger test subject to have his confirmation and reliability on the skill. Just then, he found a human presence approaching him. It was revealed to be Kanzaki, who was worried, searching for him all along as that was a dangerous forest. Not safe at night, same as day. To dodge even more questions from Kanzaki, he finally revealed about his testing of a new skill, as it was something that can be developed if they practice enough on their own divine skills. Sheetan tried to know about that skill, however, he denied and asked a strange question about her being worried about the boy. Kanzaki blushed even harder too, however, Araji-kai just turned around, ignoring it. Both of them were going for training, and just then, she noticed some smoke erupting from the dorms. A number of monsters were attacking like a stampede, and the students there had no realization of what was happening. Expectedly, Midu came to their rescue, and he decided to face all of them by himself. Nagase decided to join the battle instantly. The other two were also approaching the dorms, and upon reconfirmation, students confirmed that they were not aware of anything as it all happened suddenly. Araji-kai instantly understood that it was all the doing of a human, and they needed to catch it immediately. Finally, the culprit was revealed unexpectedly. It turned out to be the monster researcher Steady. All the monsters were from the laboratory, and Steady revealed that he had added some immunization to make those monsters even stronger. Upon questioning, Steady revealed that it was an order from above to defeat the hero candidates, and it was the reason he was there to kill them. Actually, that position was none other than from the Demon King himself, and that man was acting as a spy on the offer of working as a monster researcher if he succeeded. Araji-kai was even more pissed to hear the reason, but for Steady, it was just a game to reach his dreams, and he said those words while smiling to everyone. Battle was still going on, and Steady was the one commanding monsters to kill all the hero candidates. Kanzaki immediately decided to use her domination skill over the monsters, but it was of no use as those monsters were freed from that spell with one command from Steady, and all of them instantly jumped to attack her. Araji-kai himself came forward to guard her and took down goblins in one go. Other monsters too jumped to play their own role, and Araji-kai defeated them easily with a small knife like a gameplay. He was using his assassination skills. Even the monsters were terrified by such a display. Steady was left with no other option in the end, and Araji Kai, before heading forward in the battle, used his judgment and found that the man was half demon, with abilities of domination and sorcery. Everything was crystal clear from the moment the demons could use domination and sorcery, and hence control monsters. Steady himself decided to give a sinister laugh of a demon to everyone, and for the final blow revealed his trump card. It turned out to be a hideous dragon burning lava, flying high in the sky. The moment it roared, it was revealed to be the red dragon, and it was delivering a killing intent every time with every blow. Kanzaki was terrified of her toes, and so was Araji Kai. Once again, he played the role of a hero and saved her. He commanded Narumi to take her away and instantly used his skill of B-point identification to find that it was directly under its mouth. Finding out, he immediately tried to slash it with a sword, but it was of no use as the sword broke due to the toughness of the area. All he needed at that moment was a perfect man who held the power to deliver that attack. Became the man, which was Arashi, but he played a role once again and tried to attack it with a destructive blast without reading the situation. He was happy with that, but it was of no use, as the moment he brushed off that simple attack, the red dragon immediately countered it with even burning fire. Letting the guard down made him reach that faith. Araji Kai, realizing his strength, decided to team up to take that monster down together. Arashi's state was correct without a second thought, and Araji Kai told the reality of him holding the weak point detection skills. It was not like the dragon was going to wait for them to complete the chit-chat, and so it attacked them once again with this, combined with flame breath, giving them no time to react or counter. Arashi took that blow head-on and somehow realized that he had no chance of defeating it by himself. Taking down his pride, he inquired about it and came to know about the scale, which was upside down under the neck. Araji Kai was going to play the role of the bait to lure its attention. Steady from behind was using his domination sorcery to close things in a faster manner, and as being controlled, the dragon immediately followed it. Its flame gust was pinpointed to both of them, and the account was going to be a flame breath once again. Araji Kai somehow interrupted with some knife attacks and managed to gain its attention, relieving Arashi from any danger. Taking on the chance, he immediately rushed in and delivered the destructive blast once again from under the neck. The mission seemed successful, as that red dragon was finally on the floor and was left with no movement. Steady was standing, and Arashi was taking it easy. Araji Kai then moved forward to mock Steady even more, and it was then when that man realized that all of his monsters were having no movement, and it was just the hero candidates standing with Medu in the middle. Narubi suddenly came from behind, making that man slip on his legs. The moment he was falling on the floor, one of the candidates used his water skills and made him paint his face directly to the knife of the assassin. Araji Kai wanted to ask some questions, and even though he agreed to answer them, he choked on his breath and with blood from his eyes died instantly. It was the curse that acted the moment he tried to speak something to lead information and mead. Somehow even Araji Kai, to raise his eyebrows on the level of threat they were going to face. Scenes turned to the next day at the mansion, where the Archbishop was stunned to know about the info, while Narumi was asking for an apology for making them fall into death threat. The Archbishop just giggled because she was sure that such a low-level demon was not going to hurt his hero candidates. Everyone was shocked to know that those guys were aware of that event all along, and it turned out that it was the Archbishop's plan to make their training even harder. When others tried to show some resolve, Gaius interrupted and left them with no option but to just shut their mouths. She then revealed that all of them were going to visit the royal capital, where a parade was going to be held for revealing the hero candidates. Their plan started instantly, and when the night arrived, they were already on their way and were camping at a location. Arashi was the one planning the rebellion program to take down the 30 soldiers, who were the lowest, till the time they arrived in that country. Arashi believed that those guys were underestimating their classmates, and the plan was going to be in motion that night. The complete conversation was heard by Araji Kai. He knew that none of them were well-trained, and the only reason those Archbishop and the Knight were not paying much attention to them was because they knew that they could handle them by themselves. He immediately went to the class representative and told him everything he had heard. At midnight, when the rebellious group was on its way to take the chance while everyone was sleeping, another group arrived, led by Maido, stopping them instantly. He approached them while confirming their plan, and as soon as it was done, Kanzaki found it totally crazy to go that way. Arashi, on the other hand, was not ready to act as a dog in that country. Maido, too calm, immediately told him that his plan was to act as their pawn to defeat the Demon King and would further demand in exchange for everyone's return with safety. Arashi was not ready for it and decided to do it his own way, while the other side decided to stop him as a wall. Arashi instantly moved forward for a knee attack, even though Maido blocked it. He was impressed by the strength. Suddenly, soldiers interrupted them after hearing the ruckus, and at that time the class representative formed out. Good story to act as a safeguard. As per them, all of the hero candidates had to head early as per the orders, and that proclamation passed even more to Arashi as he was treated like a dog. On the next day, they had finally reached the holy kingdom of Digoris at the royal capital. It was looking more lively than the place they had earlier lived. It was looking like a proper parade where all of them were walking in the middle and were praised by the commoners. Meido even played along and acted like the head with a raised hand, and Araji Kai, too, felt that everyone standing there believed that those candidates were going to save them. The moment they reached the inside of the royal capital, they were welcomed by the Hlog Knight Reens. All of them moved to a rest location and were impressed with the facility. The girls were enjoying the hot water bath while the hungry group was feeding on the food. Others, too, were training around while Araji Kai decided to gather some information about the location as always. Many moved out, and he found out it was filled with even more soldiers, and then passed by the Holy Knight and found him discussing with the soldiers that those guys were looking even more powerful than normal kids should be. Everyone was with a question. Would they be able to defeat the Demon King's followers who were lurking inside the royal capital? Movements were getting intense, but residents believed that it would be the hero candidates saving them from any issue. To get even more knowledge, Araji Kai decided to head inside the city, and the best location for it, he decided, was the bar for a drink. He overheard a conversation among the people about their trust being built on the hero candidates as well as the saint, who called them from another dimension. The church trolley was holding more power than expected, and when the bartender offered him a drink, he instantly asked to have info on the Demon King's followers. This country was against war with the Demon King's army, and it was him who was seducing humans with overwhelming power. Followers were in huge numbers and had taken down Noble State just a few days ago. Araji Kai finally understood why the people in that city were more tense even after their arrival, and while he was in the middle of his thoughts, Kanzaki once again interrupted and immediately dodged even more questions. She was offering a helping hand, however, Araji Kai denied it and decided to go alone. She insisted continuously, so he gave her the task to talk to people together for information, and she agreed with a happy face. During all that time, a man was sneaking up on them in a robe with a sinister smile. In the end, Araji Kai returned back to his place with no information in hand and with the confirmation that there was a new enemy. Suddenly, huge noises could be heard from below, and as he went, he found all of his classmates being worried about Kanzaki since she was missing from her room. He brushed off any information on that girl and showed that the class representative took the task into his own hands and asked everyone to look around. The girls showed their anger and acted in their true characteristics while denying the search. Araji Kai headed out alone, and on the way he found Kanzaki's ID card. Suddenly, some men in robes with swords in their hands tried to attack him from all sides, and he still fully managed to dodge it and use one of the men to take down another. One by one, every other man was taken down either by a slice or having their skull crushed with a hit. He understood that none of them were trained and inquired about their real goal with a threatening face, managing to get the information out of that boy. Scenes then changed, and we could see Kanzaki being tied up with some of the men approaching her with wrong intentions. The lady was not giving any answers to their questions, and in the end, it showed their perversion and removed the cover from her melons with a single scratch. Before they could do more damage, Araji Kai arrived and used his judgment to realize that none of them had the capability to capture Kanzaki. He took them down with 2 small knives and came to the rescue of the lady, instructing her to keep silent. As soon as they were relieved, they decided to head out, but were stopped by a strange presence, which tried to attack them head-on with a sword. Araji Kai used his skills to dodge it, and it was revealed that the Holy Knight, who was the enemy this time even after being from the royal capital, was holding an identity as the general of the Demon King's army. The system was hollow from the center, and the only way the Demon King could rule over them was after the defeat of the hero candidates. Both of them were facing each other, and Araji Kai instantly used his judgment skill to get to know that the Holy Knight was an all-rounder and should not be underestimated. The Holy Knight jumped to attack him with the sword, and Araji Kai fully dodged it. However, it looked like the man had already predicted the move and instantly countered it with fireballs through a magic circle on his palm. Araji Kai got indulged in dodging those fireballs, and he took that moment to slip from the blind spot of Araji Kai and tried to attack him using the flame-burning sword. It looked like there was no chance for our man to get out of the trap, and it made him take out his strong card in the form of the gun and shoot the man right in the middle of his head. The Holy Knight was left with no defense, moved and fell down dead as the bullet passed, and even though Araji Kai was not willing to use it at that moment, that man was worthy of it as being an all-rounder. Kanzaki saw the complete fight, but Araji Kai acted normally as a gun is a normal part of the assassination business. She thanked him for his concern of a rival to save her and revealed that there was no impact of her domination power on those beings. Araji Kai immediately raised her robe and covered that lady with it while heading out, while telling her that a man on the way back had informed everything to him in detail. When he got one of the Demon King's followers, He was pleading for his life while revealing that he was his servant following orders coming from above to kill the hero candidates. He further added that the women they captured were still alive. When they arrived back at the dorm, it was already morning and Araji Kai was aware that the searching had not been done by a demon, because when that man spoke, he didn't die even after revealing the truth. He further gave the lady a lesson that she should not just believe anyone and get away while keeping her guard down. Kanzaki did not like such an attitude coming out from Araji Kai in shock, and they were facing two amazing, including the demon as well as the human. Suddenly, Midu arrived and was happy that both of them were good and doing fine. Araji Kai took the chance to take away the man for a discussion, and told him everything about the cult of the Diamond Demon Gang. He revealed that the hero candidates were the target of such demon followers, and he believed that each and everyone was required to be more cautious from now on. Mido suggested telling the complete story to the Archbishop, but was aware all along that she would just ask them to delete it by themselves. The one they were thinking of gathering everyone, they heard a sudden loud scream coming from the middle of the royal capital and further found smoke erupting. Before they could even move, all of them were surrounded by a group of people with covered faces and carrying spears or swords to attack them without hesitating a bit. The hero candidates went to their guard in order to deal with all of them at once. It looked like this group of people had surrounded the hero candidates in different groups at different locations, divided into 4 teams to capture them. The moment Araji Kai used his judgment scale, he found that all of them were normal individuals with the same strength as fighters. All of them moved forward to attack at once, and Kanzaki immediately used her domination power to freeze them at a location while Araji Kai stabbed his knife right into their foreheads, taking numerous candidates at once. Maigev did not like the approach of killing humans. However, his thoughts were shut down by Araji Kai, who was not going to differentiate an enemy, whether being a monster or human. Just then, one of the followers tried to attack the class representative from behind, and he just replied that he was doing all that in order to serve the master. Kanzaki's interruption in between one-on-one fights was turned down by Araji Kai, as he wanted Midu to take care of the situation by himself. Expectedly, it was him who was above the battle between both of them, and even though he wanted that man to surrender, the follower decided to approach him with a broken sword. His rush went successful as he managed to slice through the armor of Mido, stunning him for his carelessness. On top of it, he started laughing like a demon, and since Mido could not take it anymore, he sliced open that man's chest with a single strike. It looked like that being had still some life left in him, and seeing that, Araji Kai encouraged Mido to take the life of the enemy, as a threat must be eliminated. He burdened him with a lot of questions about the classmates being in danger at the moment and further inquired if the life of such demon followers was more important than the life of his classmates or not. Mido understood the task and with a step forward, took that man's life with a heart stab attack. On the other hand, the delinquent had already played his role until everyone, using his destructive blast power in one go. He was showing no mercy to the others and was somehow motivating his subordinates too. For the third group, Nagase was leading from the front, burning down the followers with her flame power, yet she was not able to cover everyone because there were a lot of them approaching. Another issue was that some of the classmates were not even able to move as they could not think of taking lives of humans, so while taking advantage, those men started attacking the hero candidates, and they arrived. The rest were in the form of the Archbishop. The Archbishop gave passing grades to the candidates, while other men were just pissed by the arrival of the saint. The bishop stayed in her calmness, showing her intention to help the hero candidates when they were in need. Demon followers were taking lightly to a lady approaching them without a knight by their side and decided to attack her blindly along with numerous other subordinates. It looked like the Archbishop was waiting for them to close the distance, and as soon as they did, she used her prostrate power to put all of them on the floor with shocked faces. Her domination power was far superior to Kanzaki's in terms of range, effectiveness, and other things, relieving the situation. Nagase thanked her for the help while she just brushed it off with a gentle smile. Then she noticed that the demon followers on the floor were being ignored, so she continued with the task and ordered everyone to kill them. Suddenly, those Zero candidates' bodies also started moving against their will with weapons in their hands, and even though they did not want to do anything, they ended up killing those guys mercilessly against their will. Araji Kai was looking after all of that event happening from above, and he was too impressed with the domination of level 3 being used on such a large number of people with such defined range. He ensured they wanted to come against it with a countermeasure. However, after 12 hours had passed from the previous attack, it looked like there were still a lot of classmates in pretty bad condition with the shock of killing human beings by their own hands. Marumi was the most pissed amongst them, and the class representative came forward to take responsibility for all of it, while others tried to calm him as there was no role that he played. Araji Kai was aware from the beginning that even though they had arrived earlier, there were no match for the Archbishop's skills, as when they were planning, they decided to split into 2 groups in order to save other classmates, but were not successful in saving the group, which was controlled by the Archbishop to kill those people inhumanly. One thing was sure in the head of Araji, that since a lot of men from the Demon King's army had been taken down, they were not going to make another move soon, and thinking of something important, he asked Kanzaki to come with him and decided to take her out. Reaching a location, he told her that in order to deal with the Archbishop's domination skills, he wanted her to use that skill upon him, and it made that lady blush. Releasing the surroundings they were in, scenes turned to the next day as a massive parade had been organized to celebrate the summoning of the hero candidates. It was a kind of proof celebration to showcase the power held by those kids, as everyone in the capital welcomed them with open arms. They looked like everyone was enjoying themselves, and the parade was grand. However, Araji found it quite suspicious while looking at the Archbishop reacting normally and turning out to be more dangerous. Finally, the parade reached the main palace, and they were informed that they had to head back to the place where they were summoned, which was Temple City Alpha. The Archbishop was not heading along with them, so the one accompanying them would be Gaius. Now, Gaius was chilled and enjoying it, however. Her mood changed as she turned back to see the condition of her other two classmates. They were shivering in fear and ended up tripping on their own feet. When the Archbishop approached them to ask about their condition, she reacted once again like nothing had happened, but it pissed Gaius off even more. So her friend controlled the situation, somehow making her stop on her terms as she left everyone to bite their teeth in anger, but was able to do nothing. Finally, all of them departed and once again had camped at a location where there were a few soldiers. Arashi decided to go with a plan he had cast before, and Araji was rating on the condition pretty good, mentioning that the Archbishop was not there and the soldier count was low too. Even he himself was not going to stop them because it was a perfect time to kill the knight. Narumi played the role of seeing a monster resembling a dragon. However, he was not able to find it when he took them to a particular location. Gaius was performing on the plan. He needed to execute and eliminate the threat, and just as Nami continued his act and pointed to a location, he made him fall to get on the guard. Arashi from behind instantly jumped and used his destructive blast to attack him, which was pretty close. The impact of that attack was clearly visible on the knight's head. Arashi was impressed with the strength posed by the old man. However, he had already planned a second attack in the form of a landmine. So the moment the old man moved backward, he was busted with a landmine attack. The trap worked fine, and it pissed the old man even more as it was a cheap one. Arashi, being a delinquent, was not even flinching a bit with such proclamation. Before the old man could think of a better way to come out, he was surrounded by other hero candidates. An order was given by the delinquent head to show no mercy. The old man understood that there was no way out of this, and so he launched a blue ball up in the sky, confusing everyone. It acted like a signal. Everyone from the camp could see it, and it was time to realize that the boy had finally messed up. The soldiers understood it was a distress signal and decided to head directly to the point. Araji immediately interrupted and sliced the throat, stunning every other soldier. He continued with his assassination of every other soldier, killing them mercilessly. Being untrained and without enough divine protection, they were not able to do anything else. Rather than waiting for their life to be sliced off, all of them had a lot of questions, but Araji neither answered even a single one and killed everyone. On the other hand, the old man was already surrounded by the hero candidates, and they were trying to fight with him in the best manner. Nami used a wind lens and others to just increase the power using their own skills to point it directly toward the old man. The knight somehow managed to dodge it, but was not aware that there was a slow attack coming from the right side. Even though he did his best to defend against it, he was of no success. The moment he used his sword to block it, it started breaking as the candidate he was facing was using divine protection of a steel body. Before the old man could even take his breath, Arashi punched him again with his destructive power, making him go back far behind. Gaius' body was pretty messed up with bloodbath and had already lost one of his hands. Everyone was confused about the distress signal. However, the knight had a breath of relief as they arrived, his rescue in the form of Archbishop herself. At one end, hero candidates were terrified to see her, while on the other hand, all the soldiers were already tied, and it was the doing of Kanzaki. She was following the orders, which was quite unexpected to her true character. Araji came forward to tell that he was the one behind it, and already all the soldiers had been either caught up or sliced. Araji did all that because he was sure that Arashi could handle the knight. Now the class representative could understand what the real reason was behind everyone being out of sight. Maida, being naive, believed that Araji was on his side. However, he was doing whatever he liked for himself. In the end, Maida decided to head out and find Arashi, believing that he was going to stop him from moving ahead with his plan. The Archbishop kept her calmness and mocked the old man for him being the one losing the match. Other candidates were not able to understand what they should be doing. However, Arashi knew that there was no other choice other than fighting her, while the others were terrified to face her. The Archbishop herself believed that those candidates just relied on divine protection and had no information on mana, which made them true weaklings in the real sense. The confidence battle was continuously going on between both of them, and it mocked the Archbishop, who then decided to cut his fangs. Gaius was stunned to hear such a proclamation at once, but that lady believed that she was more loved by God than those who filled the kids. Arashi just plunged in for the attack, and Archbishop immediately used her skill to first call up the land, which attacked him from below, and combined it with the attack of wind that launched wind lashes to take down the strongest contender from that group. One by one, the Archbishop called for fire as well as water to take down the other candidates on their knees. On reconfirmation, Arashi once again showed his resolve for the attack, but was stopped in between by the class representative and his team. When he asked the reason, Arashi revealed that he really did not like any Pacific method that the boy was using. Other candidates believed in the same manner as the saying, along with Nagase. A little fight among them ensued, to which the Archbishop mocked them instantly. She further informed them that there was no way she was going to forgive if they stopped the rebellion at that moment. With no option left, some of the candidates were terrified while others were greeting a plan. However, before they could react, Archbishop used the spell of wind to counter the enemy and used his own skill to dominate and counter it. Two morals of the typhoon could be seen in different colors, with Narubi being the one pushed down by the blue one and the other classmates caught by the other. Maida was confused and shocked to see his mates injured and not able to move, so the delinquent came forward to rise up and motivate the class representative to join the fight in order to save the classmates. Maida joined it, and so did Nagase with other classmates. The battle finally stamped between the one summoner and the ones who were summoned directly from the parallel universe. The Archbishop was ready to face them. That complete event was witnessed by Araji Kai and a secretary, who were going to interrupt once she was done using the enslaved magic. It looked like the battle was going to start, and both sides were facing each other. Gaius came in front to handle the front lines and to help the man. Archbishop used her healing skill at a level that even healed his arm, making him totally fit with no exhaustion or blood on his body. He raised the sword to face the ones who were standing in front. Hero candidates believed that they outnumbered their enemies, while the Archbishop was straightforwardly challenging them to attack in order to test how they had grown. Might have decided to be in front for the attack, with the others covering him up. The moment their swords collided, Gaius looked pretty tense that he could not win a battle like that, so the Archbishop decided to help him by launching water crystals toward the boy, and Nagase used her fire magic to melt those crystals. Fire was good, but it was not enough to melt down each and every slice, so in the end, Minu was forced to face those crystals on his body, which injured him to some extent. Hashimono decided to join the battle and used telekinesis to lift rocks, while Narumi used wind slashes to join in with the other attack. Both of the skills were pinpointed to the Archbishop. However, the moment it was about to reach her shield, it protected her from each and every attack, stunning the others as to what happened. She was being protected by Holy Divine Protection of level 5, which was told to Araji Kai when he used the Judgment skill. He knew that the only way to win against her was a physical attack. However, the knight was in between to protect her from that. She was the one fighting with the old man and was looking tired from using her skills again and again on him. He decided to handle him by himself and asked the leader to go with the others. Maida realized that his skills were not going to work against the Archbishop, and at that moment he was handed over a physical shot by one of the classmates to use as an attack. It looked like the leader was ready to cut that lady, and at that moment she decided to use the wind lashes against the man. He carefully tackled it using his physical strength in a good manner. Other candidates also realized that divine protection was of no use against that lady, so they decided to save the ones who were lying on the floor and not to interrupt the front lines. Harashi was keeping up with the pace against the old man, and it looked like he was taking over in strength. He immediately realized that the old man didn't have enough strength, and the old man knew that the kid was also out of it and could not use divine protection in the second battle. Scenes were different now, as the Archbishop was the one leading the way through her fire attacks, giving an understanding to the man that he could die if he didn't dodge even one. He himself was finding a way out to win against her. The Archbishop, on the other hand, was continuously maintaining distance from the man and was praising him for dodging those attacks continuously. Maido, realizing that the only way to win against her was to close the distance, understood that there was no way his other classmates could help him with divine protection. He moved faster than usual, not wasting a second, and executed the move. She tried to repel it using the wind spell against him. Araji Kai continuously dodged while keeping on the pace, and so she used the spell of domination to make him fall and attack him with a fire spell, making him burn in the middle of his way. The Archbishop was impressed to see his exceptional growth, but it was of no use. In the end, he was lying on the floor, unconscious with no movement in the second battle. It looked like the tables had been turned, as Arashi was taking time to think of the way out and taking the chance. The old man used that slight moment to launch an attack on his chest, making him bleed. He went on his knees. The old man again mocked him for being an amateur, having no standing without divine protection. Those words made him remember his past life, where he took down kids of his age without any power, and with that motivation he stood up against the man, stunning him to see that even though the blade was piercing his chest, he was bearing no pain. Arashi, holding on to his palm strength, punched that man right on the face and made him travel a long distance and fall to the ground. In the end, the results were declared and the kid turned out to be the winner. The table had turned in the second battle. Maido stood up suddenly, remembering about the suffering his friend had to bear if he hadn't done it by himself. The archbishop was impressed once again and was about to add a sentence. However, Araji Kai, without wasting a second, jumped at an intense speed to deliver a blow on her body and made her dodge the attack, causing her to fall back. She got a moment to react, and just then, before she could understand what really happened, Midu tried to attack her from behind, and she used divine protection to block it, but it was of no use as it was broken with a single touch by that sword. She immediately realized that Midu was closing the distance with his fast speed, and she added some more compliments to the prices and called him a child of the god. There he used instant movement once again to close the distance and point the sword right at the neck of the lady. However, something made him stop as the next command told him to kneel down. He fell to the floor due to the domination she used. Out of nowhere, her card was finally used, and so it was time for Araji Kai to interrupt. The archbishop had finally used the enslaving magic, and so his other friends tried to help him with the divine magic. However, she used her spell on them as well, making them fall under her control. She gave the candidates passing grades once again and was a little depressed to see her knight fall short in the battle, but was not tense even a bit until she could control those candidates. Even Midu had now given up hope, and it was done when she revealed that she had the power to control them from the beginning in order to save them from any threat. Just then, 3 knives were hurled her way to attack her from behind. However, she used her shield to protect herself because she was aware that one of the candidates was hiding since the beginning, and it was Araji Kai. She believed that there was something dicey about him from the start, but she was quite disappointed to see him attacking from behind instead of confronting her up front. She then also used that enslaving magic on him, also making him stand still, and was looking happy with her approach. Out of nowhere, there was a hole in her shoulder. It was revealed that Araji Kai used his gun against her, but somehow missed. The archbishop was not able to understand how the boy was moving even after the spell was cast on him, and was pretty much confused about the weapon Araji Kai used. He confused her with words to make her realize that he was up front, while the archbishop used her divine protection of fire against the enemy, making him fall for it. Once again, unexpectedly, he moved out of the location, leaving his robe behind and then stunning her from the left side with a gun pointed right at her head at point-blank range. There he revealed that her magic would not work against him. While the archbishop was confused, Araji Kai himself was not aware of the true reason behind it. It looked like the gamble worked, and as he turned behind, he asked Kanzaki to use her domination skills against him. At that time, Kanzaki was misinterpreting the situation, but then was told that while he was researching, he found quite different information. He explained that the first cast spell would take priority over the newly casted one. In short, he was asking Kanzaki to use her own domination skill first before he headed out to battle against the archbishop. This was still a gamble because there was a huge level of difference between the domination skill that Kanzaki used and the one the archbishop was using. His only support for the gamble was the event when Steady dominated the domination skill used by Kanzaki against the monsters, which clarified that the magic cast first would have a greater impact. Gambling on the possibility he was standing in front of the archbishop while moving on, her domination skill on Kanzaki was working on him at the moment as she was standing behind that cheap trick and was finally approaching as Araji Kai, hence was touching the trigger to launch the bullet. The second bullet hit her belly as she was on her knees. There was a handcuff on her hand, which was sealing her magic bar. It was something she got from the Demon King's army. The deal was open for her to send them back to their universe and get herself free. Actually, the archbishop had not been in possession of that magic to send them back to their place. The lady was surely not telling a lie in there. She revealed that summoning was something which required a huge amount of power and could only be done by God. In simple words, it was all the doing of God, and the deal was to send them back when the task at that verse was finally completed. Actually, such summoning had been done multiple times, and the only way they had been living in that country was either by annihilation from the Demon King's army or being lost. Araji K's heart was not telling him to fight the demon army after hearing all that, and so the archbishop realized that they were going to live in that country forever and in the end would be annihilated the moment the Demon King's army attacked them. Araji Kai was in no mood to hear anything else, and so he had already raised the knife to kill the lady. Mado stopped him and revealed that since that lady could not help him in getting back to his place, he decided to keep the status of a hero candidate. Even though they had been declared as prisoners, the archbishop decided to play along and react like nothing had happened in actuality. Araji Kai immediately went on making calculations. What would happen the moment they were going to release the archbishop, and the only answer was that Kanzaki would be the first target she would try to kill. Mado believed that they could not kill a saint and decided to release her once she made a deal to help them in the future. Other hero candidates supported that proclamation too. Negase, on the other hand, was pretty concerned about finding a way to make her stick to her promise. However, Narumi was not ready to trust her anyhow. Everyone went into deep thought about finding the way, and Araji was aware of Midu's situation because he was thinking about everyone, not alone like he himself was. Thinking about the kind of situation, Araji took the chance and shot that lady right in the middle of the head, with no moment to move. Other hero candidates were totally stunned to see that, and at that moment, before they could question him, he used his smoke grenade once again and disappeared right from their eyes. Midu was left with questions in his hand, and the others realized that the man was really selfish who only thinks about himself. It looks like Kanzaki was aware about it for a long time, and as the flashback turned, he told her about the plan which he was going to capture Das, and if it turns out to be impossible, he was going to kill her. Even though he had thought of killing the girl if she was unable to send them back home in negotiation, he was doing all that to take the sin of killing Sing on himself only, and he was going to return to the Empire after completing the task. That man was going to act alone to find the way out, asking that lady not to worry about him. On the other hand, Kanzaki was more worried about it. On the other side of the Empire, at a terrified place, we could see a man sitting on the throne and giggling after listening to the situation of the hero candidates who were trying to attack them. On a bright morning, we could see Araji walking and going out through the forest, heading to a city as 2 weeks had already passed. At a cliff, you could see his target clearly and reached there one night as expected. Somehow, he sneaked into the grass to reach the walls and decided to climb up in the dark pitch of the night to get away from the tag of invasion. The first step to decide in that city was to earn money, as even though he had something after killing the soldiers, he decided to go to a tavern to find some good people. Reaching the counter, he ordered a glass of drink and something to fill his stomach and introduced himself as a job seeker forced to leave the hometown. He outright asked if there was any kind of job and was immediately suggested to be an adventurer while handing over the drink. It's a kind of job. We are requesting to be received from the guild, and you are paid for waste subjugation or some task. The bartender was more convinced that the boy was capable of the task, as his eyes were telling everything, and he even reconfirmed it with the statement when asked by his adjacent seat. Registration was too easy, as they were not even asking for any kind of identification at the moment. Food was served, as the bartender was also part of the adventure group long ago. The next day, he woke up in the inn and then immediately headed out, thanking the innkeeper and telling her that this day would be quite long. It was good that no one was aware that he was one of the hero candidates, yet he decided to keep his guard up. He immediately headed towards the Adventure Guild, and as soon as he opened the gate, he found it quite busy. At the reception, he showed his concern about joining the group as an adventurer, and the charge was 1 silver coin for registration. He decided to give a different name, Siren being someone who left his hometown after the invasion of the Demon King. Registration was done, and he took his leave. A stem was given, and the receptionist told him about the hierarchy, which was divided from A to F based on the achievements. Higher ones have high regards and so higher-level quests. Due to his new registration, he was posted into a friend group. Everything was posted on a bulletin, and he immediately had to wait to check which one he should choose. One of the ranks was subjugation, and he decided to take it. As a typical man, some villain tried to face our adventurer and started mocking him for choosing such a harsh subjugation mission. Araji was just pissed enough with such mocking. Still, he kept his calmness and thanked them for their concern. Those adventurers did not like such an attitude, and the other adventurers were already aware of those silly guys taking a battle. With New B, one of them tried to attack Araji, but he caught him by his hands and put him in a lock he learned from the skills of assassination. The adventurer immediately asked for help from the other two, and those two also joined the battle. Expectedly, he took all 3 of them down with his skill and passed by all of them while looking at their request. Without wasting time, he decided to head to the forest to complete the task and started searching for the hideout through footprints and other clues. Those footprints took him in a direction, and he realized that there was some presence which was not alone for sure. It turned out to be the monster who tried to attack him from behind using a sword, and the moment he could just counter it, another one tried to attack him from behind cheerfully. He dodged it and used sand to distract one and attack the other with a strong kick under the chin. As soon as that cupboard fell down, he sliced the throat of the first one, shocking the other, and before the other one could even run, he threw 2 knives to the heart and the belly, taking the other one down too. On judgment, he came to know that those cupboards were of no threat to a person having divine protection on himself. Stunning the other adventurer, he bought evidence of killing them and presented it on the table of the receptionist, which even shocked her too and reconfirmed if he was really a new adventurer. Araji had the strength, but the issue was exploration, which made an adventurer's job complicated. Other adventurers were still in confusion over such happenings, while the receptionist just went away with the rewards for his job. Later at night, he was holding an even bigger pouch than the one he was holding earlier, and with that, he decided to stay in the city for quite a while and as an adventurer. Just then, when he was on his way to head back, he found a strong man standing in front of him. introducing himself as Lyle, a B-rank adventurer and responsible for the guild branch. Actually, that man was just pissed off at him, thrashing their men. Araji Kai tried to get out of the conversation by telling that those guys started, however. Lyle was in no mood to hear such things, and without giving a chance, he delivered a strong punch to Araji Kai's face. Araji Kai did not react a bit and continuously dodged those attacks, starting to make fun of him. The next moment, when Lyle tried to deliver a strong kick, Araji Kai countered the kick and made him trip on the floor with the second kick to his legs. He started making fun of his technique right in front of his face, pissing him off even more. The moment he tried to attack him again, Araji Kai put him into a lock with his belly on the ground, realizing that Lyle was not trained to fight humans. For the first time, Araji Kai showed a little concern for the guy and took him to the tavern and told him the complete story from the beginning. Lyle immediately apologized in front of everyone for the misunderstanding, and he thrashed the other three who tried to lie to him. All of them apologized for their wrongdoings, lying on the ground and protesting normally, and decided to end the conversation with some questions. Lyle agreed for it, and he told Araji Kai from the beginning that as a traveler, he needed to earn money to make his stay and was about to discuss another reason. Lyle was pretty much eager to know such a reason. Thinking anything else, Araji Kai declared that he wanted to travel to another world, and it shocked everyone who could hear it through their ears. Everyone was aware of the hero candidates, and Araji Kai took the chance to tell them that he wanted to travel to their hometown. Actually, those adventurers were not that much familiar with magic, and even the podium was not that much, keeping hope with having such extraordinary information from a beer and adventurer. They were aware that there was one sage, Albana, who was an elf that helped that country. Araji Kai remembered that it was one of the names from the best 11 sages, and those guys lived in the deepest forest with only a few left. Also, it was known that Albana had lived for more than 100 years, and was pretty much knowledgeable about spells. There was some information that Araji Kai was already aware of while reading books in the library, but they were still questioning if there was some kind of well who could send them back to their place. The only issue was that the man was not aware of its true location, and even though Araji Kai thanked him for whatever information he had given, however, the moment he was trying to head out, he was stopped and asked what he was planning to do after knowing the way to travel to another world. But he did not answer and left them in suspense. The next day, he was again handed over a huge amount of reward for the quest performed, and he had saved a heap of teeth through the past week's hard work. He was not ready to waste even a bit of time that day and headed out as he had some kind of information on the sage. This would be useful. As per the information that she had helped that country in its time of need, and that's why he decided to leave that city and go to pay a visit to that sage. Since then, it changed to the Holy Temple of Alpha, where we could see 4 individuals sitting together, discussing how they had been taking care of the candidates after the falling of the Archbishop. The man inquiring about it was the Holy Knight Order Captain Henrik. One of the individuals turned out to be Mido, who was satisfied with the services as he was gaining the kind of respect that he deserved in being the leader of the candidates. Arashi was also present, too impressed with Henrik's nature. Finally, the Holy Knight came directly to the topic about mobilizing the hero candidates, and those people were going to be sent to the front lines at once. Henrik confirmed it and told him about the battle, which was already going on at the western border between the Holy Kingdom and Vadodara Kingdom. All of the demands were being agreed, as the Holy Knight even agreed on providing protection to those who were not able to join the battle, while giving them some other tasks in the meantime so that they could earn their livelihood. The candidates were totally unimaginable. He informed them to head out for the task by the next day. Back when the candidates were heading back to meet others, Hashimoto was happy, and so was Maido, aware that candidates could not be controlled by the power that was processing at the moment. At that moment, Hashimoto remembered Araji Kai, as after killing, he left the place, leaving the bishop and his soldiers totally stunned. All candidates presented the matter like it was all the doing of Araji Kai by himself and declared him to be a traitor who ran away after completing the task. Soldiers started discussing among themselves, needing a proper investigation into the matter, and even the bishop found that the story was too lenient to be true. Arashi got pissed, while the bishop raised a question of all of them being involved in completing such a heinous task. Mido started shivering and had no words in answer, and then a soldier came up to the bishop acting as evidence to tell him that the other candidates were trying to protect Art, while the one who failed ran away. Some of the soldiers joined the conversation, giving a belief to the bishop, making him confirm the power that man was holding. Mido acted normally to tell him that he was a strong candidate hiding power. All the time, the conversation moved ahead. It was revealed that it was the one playing with the soldiers' minds or domination power and making them speak those words on which the bishop relied. The present day Hashimoto, still based on Araji Kai, left with no other words. Mido just smiled and grinned. Deep down in his heart, he was already aware that Araji Kai did it for his sake. She was the one who had taken the blame of killing a saint upon himself. As Mido reached to inform them about the kickstart of the battle, asking the ones who were capable of fighting to turn up. Candidates volunteered themselves, but were still scared a bit. So Nagay started mocking them for not relying on their own decision. Actually, those candidates were going to move along with the Corp and Hemric and will work under their command. Kanzaki came out of nowhere to inquire about Arajikai's news and faced a negative response even after a lot of manpower was behind him. Just then, Nagaze interrupted the conversation with fire lit up in her hand with a determination to kill the one who put them all in this condition. As planned, the complete group of hero candidates moved with the convoy. It was a huge one with the hero candidates walking in the middle, guarded by Hemric and his men. Candidates walked on foot. They were getting tired so easily, and they were going to walk till it went dark. Even the students were finding something interesting to happen, but were still displeased. Interrupting in the middle of the convention, Arashi reached his hands, telling them about a strange presence he was feeling. Hero candidates immediately went on their guard, while the others were quite pissed. Why the convoy was stopped when Maido explained the situation that the soldier just called off the request and asked him to follow the orders. Arashi, being delinquent, did not like that comment and raised him in midair while trying to calm him down before the fight could get any deeper. Those monsters came out of the bushes, and it turned out to be sharp rabbits, having long, sharp nails and heavy bodies. All of them instantly attacked the convoy, and those soldiers were not able to counter the strength of the rabbits. Hero candidates came to the rescue, and Arashi used an explosion to take down one of them at once, and then crushed its skull with his fierce kick on its head. The attack continued on the others. He continuously used explosions, giving a strong feeling and motivation to the other candidates. Even though he was successful in facing all of them alone, he realized that the power was not useful at the moment because he was feeling far behind Araji-kai, who took out the Archbishop at once from the beginning. He was having a kind of scary feeling even in the previous world, as Araji-kai didn't feel any fear towards him. All those activities were a clear declaration that the boy was really strong. This is why, when he received the power of the explosion, he believed that he had stood above Araji-kai. But once again, he failed, and it was a failure. His anger was completely visible to the other hero candidates, but he knocked off the conversation, stating that it was for nothing. Since then, it turned to the great walls around the western border fortress, and numerous guards were engaged in guarding. All the candidates were welcomed by the Holy Knight Order Captain Amelia. She was the captain promoted just now, as the ward captain had died a week ago. Even though she wanted them to get rest at once, a soldier arrived, screaming about the arrival of the Demon King's army on the fort. Instantly, they decided to mobilize, and so Mindu asked everyone to prepare for the battle. Bells were rang to mark the arrival of the Demon King's army, which was filled with different colored beings. They came like a stampede towards the target. Hemric asked the archers to introduce the number by burning them to ashes, and so as soon as they raised it, some other mag members cast Magic Today's fire and pointed it towards the arrow, making it reach the demons at the time of the attack. It looked intense, but was not able to give any impact to those monsters, as they were still determined to kill the humans standing in the forest. Amelia told the same to the leader of the hero candidates and asked all of them to obey the orders of Hemric, while she would go down and fight with the others. Hemric thought a bit and said that loose heads were already in the battle, and so when Medi looked downwards, he found a great explosion in the middle. It turned out to be Arashi, who had already taken down a small mountain of monsters with that explosion, along with his subordinate delinquent. Being base, all of them again had to prepare for the attack in the future, the same consequences in the form of fire explosions right on their faces. Some of the monsters managed to get through the fortress while breaking it with sheer power and started taking out soldiers with ease, and they arrived as the savior of that group in the form of Medeo with a majestic sword. The more rounds of monsters increased, he expanded his sword and sliced all of them in one attack from the middle. It was a battle to win, and so immediately he asked his men to get into it, as they could easily win it. He did all that to create motivation among the others, remembering Araji Kai, who did all that for their sake. Harsha was using her telekinesis, while Netgaze used her flame attack along with Kanzaki's domination. In all the battles, monsters were seen at the back leg, and the soldiers were impressed to see the power possessed by the hero candidates. The battle, intense, and those monsters lost the battle with the hero candidates emerging out victorious. Finally, Captain Amelia declared that the Demon King's army had been defeated. Henrik, in the evening, inquired about the outcome of the battle, and even though they had won, Meda was not so satisfied due to the availability of room for improvement. Henrik praised him for being cautious. Further, he asked him to be on guard, as there surely were some of the highest-ranked monsters among them. When the night arrived, scenes shifted to the demons' hideout, where a report was being presented to the leader about their failure in capturing another fortress. That man was the highest executive of the Demon King's army from the four heavenly kings of Earth, Stone Gaia. On the other side of the fortress at the Holy Kingdom, in the great forest of Echot, Araji Kai was seen walking in to meet the sage. Just then, 3 elastic, long, red-colored tongues were seen attacking him from one of the sides and turned out to be from 3 monkey monsters. As he used appraisal skill, he found that those were the tongue baboons with good stats on tongue attack. Araji instantly took out his throw knife, and as one of the monkeys tried to attack him again, he dodged it and closed the distance between them, facing backlash. When that monster tried to attack him with his paw too, Araji somehow dodged it from all three monkeys and found him the one backing out. That monster again tried to attack him with the tongue. However, this time he faced a severe backslash as his tongue was sliced with a thrown knife, and the slicing continued until Araji reached his neck, dodging the attack. Once again, he sliced his throat, making him fall to the ground, and the other two shivered in pain. Those monsters tried to run away, but Araji did not let them and ended their life in misery. Right at that moment, the Moor River got inside, and the river was getting closer to the demon realm. So masters were also getting stronger. All of them were not touched by the humans yet, and realizing the situation, Araji decided to keep his guard up all the time. In the end, he reached Mount Uragano, a natural barrier which slows down the invasion of the Demon King's army. It is said that the highest beat, the Reaper Wolf Mountain, was something where the sage Elbana was living. He was about to pass by the small village residing there, but the moment he reached, he was stunned to find it burning in the flames by the Demon King's army. Those demons were slicing humans like they were on vegetables, and even the location was pretty far from the front lines. Also, it was not safe. They were seen inquiring about their next step with Hector, who was a high-ranking demon among them, leading them on the stampede. He wanted to enslave them and was asking for any information regarding Elbana. Their highest priority since the beginning was Sage, and they were going to climb the mountain by the next morning. Even though they were accompanied by one of the highest-ranked monsters, they were afraid of the wolves, who were untamable and were their fierce enemy too. Even the domination magic was not effective against them, and it was heard that even the four heavenly kings were not able to make it possible. He had decided on defeating them to be the only way in order to head for their task, and it was supported by the other monsters with a yes at an instant. Araji immediately used his appraisal skill and found that it truly was a high-ranked demon with level 5 of swordsmanship, which gave him an intuition that fighting it had and would not be a great choice. Hector suddenly felt that they were being watched and asked their demons to find the one human hiding right away. Araji ran away, and he was good at it because of his assassin skills. Even though there were some of the survivors from the village crying for help in the middle, Araji just ran past them because in any way he could not help them and was not responsible, with his main objective being to meet Sage. He immediately headed out to climb and reach the top of the mountain. Finally, Araji reached the highest point of the mountain at the Reaper Wolf. As soon as he climbed, he realized that there was no need to follow any marks but needed to be cautious because the ground was unstable. Just then, he found that he was being followed by the Reaper Wolf with their overwhelming strength. Those wolves came out in huge numbers and tried to attack Araji from all sides at once. He dodged it and climbed on the tree and used appraisal to find out that those monsters had a high level of coordination and some good skills in agility and strength. He was calculating and finding a way out, and there came one of the wolves who slammed the tree to break it from the trunk and decided to make Araji fall. He immediately used a leaf reinforced with mana to launch a trick attack right on the neck of that wolf and sliced it open at once. Even the other monsters tried to attack him, but he was handling them by either slicing them or slamming them against each other. Actually, he was reinforcing himself with mana, and it was the Archbishop who taught him about it. The moment she mentioned their weak magic mana flow, he took it to the mountain mine and realized that it was the reason they were not able to register against her domination magic. By improving the control of mana, he could reinforce his body with mana and increase the distance against enemy magic. While using it, he was acting at a great pace and decided to keep practicing it while climbing. Araji immediately passed away from the lower ones and reached the leader while the others were confused about what was happening. He did not take even one complete minute to slice that huge monster's neck off. As soon as it was dealt with, other monsters ran away from there, and it was a good lesson to learn. There he had no intention of letting those monsters go, so he started running behind them and felt a different kind of strange movement. It was like projecting their trajectory of movement. The real presence of that monster after a few seconds was similar to the others too. He kept his throw knife at a location, and that monster arrived by itself to get itself sliced from the middle with it. In short, he was able to see the future in 1 second, and with that, his demonic eyes were telling that training was going to be an intense one. Instead, he completed the task within a few minutes and left blood-stained monsters on the ground. When he used appraisal on himself, he found another divine protection of foresight being added to his skill set. Basically, it was an appraisal of his enhanced blessing, and finding a new skill was allowing him to see everything on sight. At one moment, he was exhausted and decided to rest a bit. However, unexpectedly, he heard a strange noise and immediately ran to the direction of the noise. Not a great time to rest. As he reached, he found the monsters from the previous day, led by Captain Hector, praising an elf girl who was a disciple of the sage, looking pretty brushed off with the previous battle. He was allowed to learn the final attack and asked his group to kill her at once. That lady was not ready to die just yet, but the monsters had their intentions of doing so. They even tried to attack her, but she was protected by Araji Kai. He carried her away, leaving the monster group as well as the lady confused about the presence of a human. While Araji Kai was reading the situation for the presence of 10 soldiers and their high-ranking demon leader, the only reason Araji Kai helped that girl was because she was a disciple of the sage and he had business with her. He was not able to use appraisal but was sure that she was handling some skills in a good manner. On the other hand, Hector immediately asked his men to launch the attack at once and kill both of them, while Araji Kai decided on defeating all 10 of them in order to proceed further. He was rushed from all sides, and so Araji Kai immediately used foresight to protect their movement once again in the future. As soon as he noticed that one of them was going to get his back to attack from behind, he turned and blocked that attack, making him confused by such an act. Others were also stunned as it was never predicted, but soon all of them met their end as Araji Kai started slashing them with his thrown knife. He was sure that he would not lose with his foresight by his side, and it was even making Hector reckless with every passing second, so he ordered the others to use magic bullets with their magic circles, making large balls of aura to launch towards him. He did not look prepared, and so the sage's disciple decided to intervene and called for his wind spirit to block all those attacks with a typhoon of sharp slashes. Araji Kai was totally confused and stunned to see her using the power borrowed by the spirits and praised her. He soon realized that if he was not going to join the party, they would not be able to proceed further, so he took out his strong weapon. Araji Kai decided to tackle him by himself, and there the leader arrived, surrounded by an intense aura. The lady did not like her being called a disciple, and told that her real name was Mare. Even in that intense fight, Araji Kai mocked her further and rushed in for the attack. He was forced to take out 2 of his thrown eyes to counter his great one, but still, it had no impact. He was overwhelmed by the slash's attack of that monster, and as he forced one of them away, Araji Kai faced a shallow, deep cut on his belly, even when he tried to dodge it. Hector was impressed, and Araji Kai immediately used appraisal on him to admire his swordsmanship skill. In the end, he decided to use his final move. As Araji Kai was on halt, that man rushed forward to get himself going with the battle, while Araji Kai used his foresight to look 1 second ahead in the future and started dodging the attack continuously. He was pretty successful in it, but yet was not able to match the speed of the swing, leading to him getting sliced a bit on his hand. Araji Kai immediately used his gun and shot 3 of his bullets at that man while he blocked them using his hands. His reflexes were pretty good, but yet had impacted the movement of that guy. He was not impressed with the device and tried to rush again forward at Araji Kai. Araji Kai used the last bullet while he did it easily, looking at the reflex. In the end, he took out his throwing knives, aimed at that guy. Hector was deciding on the next move, and Araji Kai threw a grenade in front of him, making him confused. As soon as that grenade touched the ground, it exploded, taking that man into it. His subordinates were pretty concerned about such a happening, while Mare was trying her best to read the man who was even dominating a high-level demon. Even though the grenade was pinpointed unexpectedly, it had only given a bruise to that monster, and then that monster, without spending a second, moved forward with a loud scream and continued his attack in the form of great lashes. Araji Kai immediately used his final scale to analyze the moment, and there he looked into the foresight to look once again in the future. At the same time, he used another skill of big point detection to look for what would be the weak point in the future after completion of that attack. A thin line was depicted toward Hector's neck, and Araji Kai moved with a swift movement, pointing that attack directly to its neck. He successfully slit its throat and defeated that monster. As soon as the task was complete, he fell to the ground with his knees on the ground, and it looked like he was gone. The monsters realized and found that the guy was exhausted after fighting the leader. Also, Mare had already reached her limit after utilizing the power of the spirits, and so the monsters decided to attack her at once. They called an incantation, summoning the salamander, and those monsters were burned in fire while screaming for help. Those flames were on a different level, and their apologies reached the sage Albana for the later arrival of golden hairs. She was impressed with the strange guy helping her disciple. She thanked him for the help while he just called it a coincidence, confirming if that was really the sage, because he himself was not able to appraise due to his low mana, and then decided to be honest with her without hiding anything. Albana was ready to help that guy even if she was hiding any purpose because he saved that disciple. All of them decided to head back in order to save themselves from the wolf and to make that boy rest in order to regain his mana. The situation was pretty favorable for him, and he was looking happy at home. They reached the house, which looked like a witch's one. Mare immediately went for a bath while Albana informed him that the only reason for residing in a remote place was to save herself from being used by humans, even after her retirement. That place was to test the arrivals at the location, and she was ready to help those who managed to get through it without wasting time. He introduced himself as one of the candidates, and she understood that he was from the 3rd generation as even the bishop mentioned it. The previous generations of the summoning had already been eradicated by the demon kings. Actually, the second summoning was done around 4 years ago, and the first one was done around a decade ago. As seen, all of them had been eradicated by this time, and they decided on banning the summoning process. Even that sage was against the idea of performing it for the third time, as interesting as it was. Their own country in the hands of other people was pretty reckless. Out of the blue, Araji Kai informed her about him killing the archbishop, confirming that there would not be another summoning for sure. His words were giving confirmation that the boy was surely not lying. Discussing and clearing the mess she had created, Albana directly reached the conclusion that she could not send him back to his home, even with the spells, which stunned and broke the only hope he was carrying at the moment. Actually, summoning was one thing that she could do, but she could not send them back. Since there was no reason to research about it, that knowledge had already been lost into the ages. Araji Kai just understood one thing with it, that there was no other way than killing the Demon King. While Albana added that it could also be done with the help of demonic cards, Albana was just feeling a bit sorry as she was of no help to the guy but was sure he would do it. One thing she was even sure of, he could kill even the Demon King. Araji Kai was also determined for it and decided that if there was no other way out, he would just kill the Demon King. Those words were set with huge determination, and Albana felt that the boy was really different from the other hero candidates. Araji Kai simply thanked her for all the information and told her to reach the guild if she wanted to convey something. Albana had something else cooking in her head, and as Mare arrived out of the bath, she asked the boy to join her to freshen up. Taking upon the chance, Sage gave the suggestion to take her disciple on the journey. Mare was just stunned to hear those words, while Sage was doing it just to meet her with the goal. Araji Kai was not even interested in taking the conversation further and just refused to take a noisy girl along with him. In the next scene, we could see Araji Kai walking to the front lines of the battlefield, along with that noisy girl, finding good weather by his side. Even Mare was confused about the changing condition around the surrounding area, because it had been different just a few days ago due to it being under the control of demons. Actually, around the western region, there was a big city and small villages around it. But now, since the city had already fallen, the devoting army arrived at the front line. It was going to take them 2 days to reach the location. But the moment he inquired about the happenings with the people, the only clear answer was the eradication of half of the population, and the others were forced to be under control for labor. Mare was pretty knowledgeable, and she was a great help if taken care of properly during the journey. A flashback came when he declared Mare to be a noisy girl. She felt mocked while Albana was trying to tell the guy the importance of the dead girl for his new arrival. Actually, Mare wanted that little girl to know about the reality of the world, and to give her that experience, she needed to survive. Till then, she was not finding the right person to send with. In short, she was interested in the girl to Araji Kai because she herself did not have the capabilities to go on due to her limits being approached soon. Araji Kai tried his best to inform her about his intentions of infiltrating the demons and trying to depict it as dangerous. Albana, in the end, left the decision to the girl herself, and she, realizing her life within seconds, agreed to go with that man, with a goal in her 2 different color eyes. However, when it reached the present, she was tired even after walking for a single day, and it looked like she was the one who was pushing back Araji Kai in reaching his target. Unexpectedly, Araji Kai decided to help her while lying down, giving her a kind of hope of not being left behind for such silly reasons. Camp was settled at that place immediately, with a bonfire in between both of them. Mare was enjoying the food while diagnosing again. He told her about the journey being dangerous, giving her the option to head back home if she wanted. He was aware that there must be a different reason for her being part of it, and finally, that Elf decided to speak. Actually, her own place, or the village she used to live in, was destroyed by the Demon King's army because it was not only among the humans and demons. They were overwhelming every other species, and it was the reason why her brother, mother, and father fell for it and were killed. All of them acted as bait in order to let her get away, and it was then when she was picked up by the master. Araji Kai dumped her in her past and asked what her real intention was. She revealed the reason for being a disciple and spellcaster and the reason she was gaining knowledge from her master. Since the last decade, it was only for revenge, which was to kill the man who killed her family with her own hands. The name of that demon was Wimberg, one of the 4 heavenly kings leading the wind. The reason was pretty good, but Araji Kai was not going to fight just for her sake. Mare was not stunned with it because of her master's decision. Actually, she had never let her get off the house, and if she had sent her with him, then there must be a reason behind it. It was the only reason she was ready to follow his instructions. With those words, Araji Kai again remembered the flashback where Albana was praising the guy and handing over the kid, and realized that Albana knew the way that her disciple would surely die aimlessly if she went alone on the journey. Reading the surrounding situation, Mare apologized for dragging him into the story, and Araji Kai then just asked her to head for sleep as they had to get on the walk again by the next day. He put on the watch to make them a good sleep, but was not able to sleep in the night while remembering about the 4 heavenly demon kings. Since they were in the top four, they surely were going to be much stronger than the higher-ranked demons. He just faced behind. Topics were getting intense at the moment when he was looking at the stars, and then decided to just get off it because it was not the right time. In a story of other hero candidates at the fort, there was a meeting going on between some of the delegates along with the leader of the hero candidates. One of the delegates was continuously screaming to go on an offensive manner, while the other was confused about where they should start from. Amelia raised her finger and pointed to the fort, which they needed to get first to make their frontline base even stronger. On the other hand, the found-in-white reckless delegate just started mocking him for being afraid, even with the hero candidates by his side supporting. Amelia supported those words, but was sure that the enemy might not be thinking that they were going to get offensive, and instantly confirmed if the candidates were fine in their situation right then. Maida was ready to act the man, and he was commanded, but the time when he was on his way back to meet the others, Henrik added that Amelia was never ever this aggressive in the first place. Maida was somehow agreeing with the sayings of that girl as they were still regrouping their forces. Henrik was aware that they were feeling overconfident at the moment, but was not going to deny the orders of the higher-ups. They were ready to support with their best and asked Maida to inform his subordinates to get going by the next morning. Maida himself had a bad feeling, and that attack was exactly opposite to what he had in the previous one. The next day in the morning, they had reached the nearby Fort Arles, and we could see the hero candidates along with knights on guard. They were doing it in the morning because demons could really see in the dark, which would be a dangerous task for them to face. The task was to defeat the leader of the group while knowing that it was going to be a high-ranking one, which is why they decided to take the lead, while the others had to buy sufficient time to go with the flow. Other words looked determined in their eyes while feeling tense, and soon they received the order to go for the operation. Henrik commanded others, and the battle started to plunge inside the doors in huge numbers with soldiers, with Amelia being the first to face the demon on his long tongue. That complete fight was witnessed from the top by Stone Gaia. They reached inside the fort, and Midu took the lead and started slicing those monsters from up front. Others were counting on him while Henrik was commanding the guy to take his guard down. Not so long, they were surrounded by monsters from both sides, and the backside was taken by Henrik along with the Knight Order, while the hero candidates had to proceed with the goal. Nagaze took the first step and used her flames to burn them, while Mido continuously moved forward, slicing the others. Every candidate was giving his best, and with that, they finally reached the final door. The moment it opened, we could see a huge boulder monster, Stone Gaia, standing in front of it alone. He was the leader and gave them a formal introduction of being one of the 4 heavenly demon kings. That was not just a title, and it was visible from the pressure it was emitting. Stonegate was interested in looking at their powers, and this is why even the hero candidates immediately went on their guard. The fight was going to be between a solo man facing the other candidates in huge numbers alone. Stonegate immediately used his skill on the ground while laying his sword beside, and before the others could even comprehend, something started to take its form out of the ground, stunning the others about the formation of golems instantly. Those columns were formed in huge numbers, and as the simple task was completed, Stone Gaia ordered them to kill those candidates at once. Midu immediately gave command to Narumi, and he launched wind cutters to slice those columns, delivering shortcuts, while Arashi brushed forward to explore one of them with his explosion punch and made it fall into pieces. He believed that those golems were going to go down with nothing. However, it was not as simple as it looked. The crushed bodies of those monsters started rising from the ground and attached again to the body from which they fell, ensuring they were regenerated. Soon, it even attacked Arashi, forcing him to dodge it. Other candidates also joined the battle, and all they were able to do was slice that monster and wait for its regeneration. One of them was under the impression of being hurt, and so Kanzaki used her domination magic to stop it in between, while the other just decided to hurt it with a spear. As soon as the domination was removed, that monster punched that guy in the face, making him fall on the ground, and there entered Hashimoto in the battle to use a telekinesis skill to attack. Those monster attacks were impactful, but not really, as even that monster fallen on the ground started emerging again with regeneration. Narumi believed that they needed to defeat the summoner at once, and so Midu dodged those golems along with Arashi and headed directly for Stone Gaia. That monster did not like such an underestimation and again casted his earth spell to bring out rocks from the ground and pointed them directly at Araji Kai for the attack. He instantly tried to change his direction of movement, but astonishingly, even those rocks changed their direction and attacked him head-on. Others were concerned about him, but he again went back to his senses, telling them that it was fine. Finding the gap in the timing and realizing that the monster had lowered down his guard, Arashi tried to attack him from behind with his huge explosion power. However, when the smoke cleared, we could see a sand wall protecting that guy like Gaara. That sand even acted on command and punched Arashi right in the belly, making him fall on the ground. Stone Gaia was not happy with the skills that the hero candidates were possessing. At the time when Maidu and his party were fighting, one of the 4 heavenly kings, Araji Kai, had arrived at this fallen city, Nutrat. They were passing through an underground tunnel with the help of the fire lamp from the disciple of the mage covering their nose due to the stinky smell coming from the dirty water. They decided to stay calm to reach the underground, and they chose that path because the demon was higher at night, the city being under great security as being at the front lines right now. Reaching a point, they decided to enter out of the tunnel, and the happiest person among them was Mare to see the sky once again. Suddenly, he felt something at the moment and decided to hide himself inside a large container like a chicken. There passed him demons discussing being chosen as the guard in the demon's army, while the others had no motivation to work under it. It looks like both of them were quite fudged due to the scolding from the master, and as they passed Araji Kai, he remembered the witch they were talking about who was the governor of the city. That lady was the current target, named as the Witch of Space, and that was given to them by Sage Albana as a woman who would help Araji Kai for the initial time. They decided to gather some information before heading directly, and the proper command by him to Mare was to never act on her own accord. As they moved forward, they found the complete city was swarming with demons laughing or drinking in the middle of the street. Araji Kai was at a higher building along with the lady and was finding it twice disappointing. Suddenly, Araji Kai noticed some of the humans were working as labor for those demons, and the moment they were not, they were being thrashed like slaves. Everyone was aware that those were the ones who were enslaved and were not killed during the invasion. While walking, those demons were depicting pure madness while delivering torture, and it pissed off Mare. Once again, Araji Kai felt a sudden presence, and as he turned behind, he found a lady with 2 horns, red eyes, and a gloomy face confirming that they were not demons. Without wasting a second, he took out his throwing knife and went on guard, only to get confirmation from the lady of not arriving for battle. Araji Kai was just impressed with her sneaking skills, as there was no way someone like him could not feel the presence of an enemy at the back of his head. Actually, that little girl had already noticed them, and the moment they had broken the detection barrier, the complete place was under her manic artist space. Diagnose immediately used his appraisal magic to find that her stats were touching newer heights against whatever he had encountered till now, with some rare skills. She introduced herself as Isabel, the 5th princess of the Waldo demonic kingdom. She immediately asked them the reason behind their arrival, doubting if they were spies. Assad was sure that he was going to lose in a battle with her, so he didn't mind answering and told her the complete story of how it all started and how it was going. She just realized that the boy wanted to go back to his world, and she confirmed that such a thing had a possibility to happen. Araji Kai was a little happy to encounter the Witch of Space, and even that lady was not carrying any hatred against humans. The only problem for her was that in order to send him back, she needed the coordinates of the world, lowering the hopes of Araji Kai and lifting them up the very next second, that it was even possible to send him without coordinates back to his world. Araji Kai still wanted to find the coordinates to have greater authority, but it was not an easy task, as there were many worlds in this universe. That lady was not lying even with the eye of truth. Isabel further told him that there was a protection of God surrounding him at the moment, and it was so strong that it could not even be reached by her own demonic power. Again, Araji Kai realized that God wanted them to kill the Demon King. However, Isabel acted like she was not aware to such an extent. Anyhow, one thing was for sure. The product has no other choice other than killing the Demon King, which is why he determined himself to take the only path. The same thing Araji Kai understood to Isabel. However, Mare finally came up with the question of her being too cooperative, even after she was a princess of the demonic kingdom. Isabel opened a space portal right in front of her, before entering, and told them. She just wanted something out of the demonic kingdom facts, which she was going to get before entering and escaping. She told them that they had to be on guard and careful in order to escape from the city. Mare took a breath of relief while Araji Kai was just thinking of the strength of the higher demons, which was seen on a totally different level. Between their little chatter, it was created outside the city, and it was seen that demons were continuously searching for spies who infiltrated the city, giving a confirmation to the others that it was the witch who talked to them nicely and then informed them about their infiltration. Product Nest then gave much thought to why she did that and just decided to leave the place. A few more seconds later, both of them were seen running on the top of the roofs, while the demons were still trying to find them inside the city. Diagnosed while running was also reading the situation, realizing that all of them were having different kinds of higher skills, which their current selves could not fight and win. Right at that moment, Araji Kai stopped while running, making the lady fall. She somehow controlled and then went down for a sneak peek. Araji Kai had a feeling of a different mana at the level of the Veg, and when he noticed, he found a young man standing between those demons with bold green eyes and a horn on his head pointing hard. Mare's impression had completely changed at that moment. She identified him to be Wimberg, as it was the same guy who had killed her entire family and the village. She was falling into despair, and revenge was dripping from her face as she finally confirmed that this was the same man who was one of the heavenly kings of the demon Bamberg. Araji Kai immediately used his appraisal and noticed that the boy was really strong with some skills like wind, attribute, and sportsmanship at level, and holding the highest level of magic traits. It was not the right moment, so Arajikai calmed her down and decided to move forward with proper caution, as even his magic was more than enough to pinpoint their current location. Just then, a wind passed away from those, like it was searching for the culprits all along. Wimberg immediately went on the run to find the intruders, being sure of crushing them if they infiltrated the city. He was a bit concerned about the hero and showing on the lights, and had pure intentions of saving themselves from any other ruckus. They were not happy with having a member by their sides at the rear point due to the caliber of man that man was holding. Member was truly a lazy guy and never wanted to do any physical work, and just in between those gusts which were telling Arajikai right back to their master to tell them about the intruder's presence, he was also aware that those guys were moving with more care while leaving the impression on the demons of being someone who was even able to control the gust and read any message from it. Member was also aware that it was the witch who had allowed them to pass on because she could always find such a little presence using her demonic art. Both of them were still running with Arajikai being ahead and taking command, stopping the lady whenever required. He was aware that even though they had noticed them pinpointing, their location was a more tedious task. Mare noticed the gusts, which had been following them for a long time. Even though Mare could disturb the natural flow of the winds, it would give their location, so they decided to head on without giving a touch or revealing their locations. Continuous running was still going on while the monsters were chasing them and finding every street. Then they were able to do so because Mare was not able to keep up with the speed, but Diagnos asked her to just calm down, further requesting to be a decoy in order to make him get past before she could comprehend. Arajikai started climbing on the roof through the walls, leaving the lady behind, and there he reminded her of the revenge before hiding himself against the roof, leaving her on her own accord. They were happy that they were going to get one of them and decided to divide their team into 2 seconds, one following the girl and another the man. Marin already had enough and showed she called out for the spirit of Salamander and burned all the monsters at once with sheer power, leaving them. Other groups were not able to comprehend, however. They were able to pinpoint the location and had it directly towards them. Unbeknownst to them, Arajikai was also present at the same location, and he used his knife to slice their heads off instantly, leaving them no time to move. Not a single noise was created enough. Today, as a concern to the other monsters, and as the last one was standing, he was also sliced away within seconds. Mare still was relying on her spirits and was attacking them with the water spirit to slow them down as best she could, and as she saw the group for a little longer, she noticed that a few of the monsters from the backward were disappearing, reducing the count of the members, as if someone was taking them from behind. Not so long, it was the chance for the last line to notice and find that they are being sliced one by Arajikai using his throwing knife. He thanked the lady for acting as a decoy, and both of them moved forward. That news reached to remember about the monsters being failures in catching them, and that is why he decided to take that matter into his own hands to reduce the number of casualties. As both of them were running away from the city, a strong wind gust approached them and tried to attack them from all the sides using sharp needles of wind slices. Mare, being on guard, called up for the wind spirit to create a tornado in order to stop those slashes, giving an intuition to Arajikai. He realized the final boss had already arrived, and it was Wimberg standing tall in the sky, looking at the intruders. Mare once again deep-dived into revenge as she had been waiting for this chance for the past decade. Arajikai whispered in the ears of the lady that they needed to keep the fight short, giving their best from the beginning and defeating him. Understanding the situation, Mare called for the wind spirit to launch wind toward Wimberg while he stood still. He informed her that a magic circle created a barrier, which stopped all of those lashes at once, while covering him in wind protection. It looked like the man was not able to see anything, and so Arajikai rushed with a wrong understanding, just to get caught off guard with the previous attack he faced. Wimberg giggled a bit to see those fools understanding that they could defeat his wind magic, and even Arajikai was aware that there was no blind spot in that Heavenly King's attack. Mare came to his rescue and used the wind spirit attack once again, disturbing the flow of the wind and shocking that demon with such an event. The protagonist was pretty sure that the lady was continuously thinking of taking him from the beginning, and he took the moment to climb to the roof in order to reach the man by himself. Somehow, Wimberg noticed it before he could even get touched by his slash. Wimberg did it in the middle, as he was able to fly in the sky. Arajikai noticed something through his intuition and jumped into the midair with the help of the spirit given by Mare to close the distance between him and the monster. Wimberg was shocked while Arajikai immediately used his foresight and weak point detection at once to create a fine line, marking his movement by looking 1 second into the future. However, within no time, that thin line of points started to fade because the man brought out his sword, which was green in color, emitting light, creating pressure on him and threatening the man for his daughter. As soon as it came out, Arajikai had to give his best to protect himself from every move, but he was not able to match it even with the use of foresight. Actually, it was the master who taught him the skills of a man in the middle of his brain. He was attacked by a huge boulder due to his keen and sharp instinct. He was able to dodge it again. Now the battle was clearly between two amateurs and one experienced individual. A new chapter was unfolding every second as the battle moved forward for Araji Kai and Mare. In the meantime, even Wimberg understood that they were the ones who had defeated Hector, while Mare was predetermined to make him remember what he had done with her village, attacking and harming him every night, sleeping in the depth of revenge. Wimberg instantly decided to take the benefit of the emotional behavior, starting to remember the day as one of the funniest in his rise, and the more he was lurking inside it, the more his corn was getting veins. He was making fun of her father, who begged for her life. He was enjoying that distorted moment. Mare was about to lose control, so Araji Kai immediately interrupted to calm her down and decided to use her spell in this battle. Araji Kai was reading the situation to find out how he can battle against the man, while Wimberg was impressed at how the boy had evolved in that battle so much that even being a human, he was standing toe-to-toe. The only answer to the question was that he was one of the hero candidates summoned from the parallel world, because the strongest right now, he was not on the list of Wimberg. Araji Kai was the one who was at the backlash because he had only 5 minutes left until Foresight was going to work. Suddenly, Mare came up with an idea. She murmured something into the ears of Araji Kai, and they had a little banter between them, and she was going to take on the other one. It looked like it was going to be between both of them. She used the wind spirit of Mare to fly in the air, and then she immediately called for the earthworm to shoot down Wimberg in midair. Wimberg used a magic circle to protect himself from those stones. It was at the backside of him at the moment. He was doing his best to protect himself. Araji Kai attacked from another side, making him block it using his sword. Pebbles were still under a wall, which looked like an act already predicted by Mare. She immediately called upon the Sylph spirit once again and pointed it directly toward the magic circle, making it break. In the meantime, when Wimberg was pretty much engaged in protecting himself from the stone, Araji Kai also found the gap created due to his loss of concentration, and as soon as he found it, he delivered a slash on his hand, instantly making him lose his sword. It looked like his target from the beginning was getting his hands on that majestic sword, and he successfully ended up with it and landed on the boulder. Wimberg, on the other hand, had to face the pebbles too. Even though it had just a nil impact on Wimberg, he was not ready for what actually those guys were planning in reality. Mare had been planning something since the last decade, and she was reading and putting all the knowledge she had conquered in that fight, and that is why her only intention was to disturb the wind flow of his art to drop its effect. Araji Kai was also able to understand the same. However, since it was not enough, he decided to take on the sword from that man instantly, making himself mocked by Wimberg, who was pretty sure that the hero candidate was not having the skills of sportsmanship, so it would be of no impact for sure. Still, Araji Kai pressed forward while canceling the wind using the sword and immediately qualified the distance between them with a quick rush, shocking him for not being able to read the movements. He was being pushed behind due to the attack and Mare's interruption through wind. In the end, it looked like Araji Kai had an open gap where he could deliver the final blow. And being pushed even more, he unleashed his veiny horn to increase its size, and the moment Araji Kai used his foresight, he had already read it and dodged quickly. He slashed his head and knocked it off the ground. Wimberg was waiting for an answer on how he had managed to evolve like that, and the only answer Araji Kai gave was through the skill of divine protection of Copycat, which allowed him to copy the skills of his opponents. In short, he was copying all the skills since the beginning of the battle, and that is why he was harnessing his swordsmanship skills. That was one of the skills he got after killing Hector and was added to his status screen. Post the battle, he was just sitting on the battleground, reading about his strength possessed by one of the 4 heavenly demon kings and trying to understand what the strength of the real demon king would be, who was having a daughter like Isabel with such strength. In any case, such a thought was of no matter, and at that moment he noticed Mare and how she was feeling after the revenge. It was quite different because that lady was just having a feeling of relief, because in any case her family was already gone and the happiest thing was she was free from the past. Araji Kai thanked her for helping in the battle at a significant cost, while she was a bit sad to think that even after the practice of a decade, she required the help of one hero candidate to defeat him. With a cute face and red cheeks, she immediately thanked him for helping in the revenge, while the lady further added that she was happy to follow him because in any case, if she had been all alone, she might have run away or been killed meaninglessly. Finally, Araji Kai asked about her next moves, since revenge was already taken and why the lady was lost. He advised her to live a long life in calmness and enjoyment. Mare had quite different intentions, and she presented a wish to reside alongside him for the moment, with the motivation of producing the number of sufferings once the Demon King is killed. She was quite insistent to be a part of him, and Araji Kai showed agreement, not with words, but by asking her to head out before the reinforcements arrived. Both of them left from the place, and at that moment, Isabel arrived in Mare through her portal with a gloomy face, praising them on their strength and being relieved on achieving what she was planning for. After that, both of them reached back to the mountain, and arriving at the peak, they met with the sage. Even the sage had never expected them to come back in such a short period of time, and before her own disciple could reveal her true intentions, she realized that Mare wanted to travel with the boy on the journey. After the blushing session was completed, the sage informed Araji Kai about the hero candidates being defeated by one of the four heavenly kings. He was the highest executive and the king of Earth, Stone Gaia. This somehow survived but was not killed. However, one thing was sure, that their morale was truly down. Araji Kai's goal was to defeat the Demon King, and so he decided to take down the enforcement and head for the head of the four heavenly kings. Once again, they turned to the foot, where a number of soldiers as well as the hero candidates were lying on the ground and being treated by recovery agents. The leader, Medu, was also among them, while Hana was trying to heal her with the best back when they were in the middle of the battle. Hamrick arrived with his soldiers and evacuated them back to the place. Otherwise, they were surely dead meat. Someone had physical damage, while others had mental injury, with leading candidates among them being Nagase and Arashi. The reader decided to take all the blame off on himself. The next day at Fort Arliss, we could see Stone Gaia sitting at the top of the fort, while Araji Kai was seeing him from a long distance, confirming the existence of one of the four heavenly demons. He was able to do it due to his increased level of appraisal, and using it, he was able to read that even after reaching the age of 75, that man had some real strength, experience, as well as S-rank skills too. As soon as he used advanced appraisal on that guy, he found that he was the real cause, having a big advantage in defense as it multiplied furthermore. When he used the third skill of finding the weak point, he noticed that there was no such change or mark, revealing that he needed to work on himself before going into a battle with him. Mare was just aware that the Heavenly Demon King was good at physical strength and handling earth magic, and a special ability to boost his defense. She shared a great idea that earth magic is weaker against water, but all of it depends upon the compatibility and the level of skill that was being used. She was also sure of predicting the weak point inside him once she knew which demonic art he had mastered. Both of them decided to pay a visit to that man, while, on the other hand, Midu was looking well, thinking of Araji Kai being there to help them at the time of need. Determination of defeating the Heavenly King was met by his classmates, who decided to help him because she was not alone for sure, and they really trusted him. Those classmates were asking for a little more reliance upon them. In the end, all Midu could do was laugh at his silly tension. To help him strengthen his team, Arashi arrived with his delinquent subordinates and decided to be under the wings of the leader in order to defeat that stone bastard. Classmates were also happy to see their team being decided to mark the event, making his face go a little angry. One of them had decided to complete the task by taking the burden on their shoulders, while Kanzaki was worried about not having any kind of plan. Just then, Araji Kai called her while hitting himself under the stairs, and she was too excited to see him alive and standing. Still, he was basically asking for information about the kind of demonic art Stone Gaia uses, so she decided to tell him the complete story to get the answer by himself. As it completed, he understood that the man was using mud columns, focusing on all of them, and then she murmured a woman's name by his mouth, making the other girl get jealous and immediately caught attention to it. He just got past without answering her questions and told her to be a part of the group where they were going to battle Stone Gaia again, so that he could act as the shadow of her. The monster was still active at Fort Arliss, while the other side's hero candidates were planning. Unexpectedly, Yumi had also joined into the battle from the non-combatant party. However, when she was asked about a reason, she just said that she did it in order to help the ones who are in need on the side. The real reason was Araji Kai, as one day when she was working as a maid due to being a non-combatant, Araji Kai paid her a visit and left her in shock of being alive and roaming freely after killing the archbishop. She was blushing with the thought of having a man inside her room. While Prague cut to the chase, asked her to give her skill of divine protection of water manipulation to good use and join the battle there. The boy even requested her help and made her believe that she was one of the important weapons they would need in order to defeat that stone bastard. He made her believe that the most fearful individual in her mind is already killed, so she could just act on her own accord. Another reason for her being suggested for the test was that she was not even a good waitress, and with that, she turned red from embarrassment. Yui confirmed if he was also going to be joining the combatant party even after being declared as a traitor, so he turned it down and told that girl the same thing, that he would be acting in the shadows and moving like her into motion. Yui was determined to do her best within her power, and reading up on the plan, he changed it a bit and informed Kanzaki. She still had a portion of doubt in her mind. Araji Kai just believed that their classmates would do their best anyhow. Back on the day of the attack, Minu reconfirmed the plan once again, as they were going to win it for sure. All that time, they were being noticed by Mare while she was having her breakfast, who was informed by Araji Kai that he was the one training the classmates in order to defeat the demon. His only task was to give them hints and make sure that they decide their own moves at the moment of the attack. Finally, when the time arrived, the yellow-haired kid again charged in the soldiers against Fort Arliss, while monsters marked them, not learning from their past mistake and letting them enter. Both sides collided with each other with great force while the soldiers were indulged in creating a path for them. And in the meantime, the leader noticed that they were being witnessed with a bright smile from the top of the fort in the form of Stone Gaia, who looked like he was waiting for the arrival. As soon as they reached the gate of the final boss, Arashi busted it open with the explosion punch, and this time it was a different sight as Stone Gaia was already prepared with his mud golem standing in the way. At the top of it, through the sneak peek, Haraji Kai and Mare could be seen, witnessing the match from the Little E. Battle was between those mud golems and the hero candidates, so the leader took the first step and took out his sword, commanding his subordinates for the operation. Yumi used her technique first and commanded the generation of water and pinpointed it directly towards the golem. With the water attack successful, other candidates delivered their portion of attacks on those columns, either with an explosion or a combined attack with other candidates. All of their intentions were to break the columns into pieces, and they were successful relying on the strength of the Heavenly King. Those golems started to regenerate once again. However, due to the cracks and heavy sand, their regeneration failed miserably, and they fell to the ground. Stone Gaia was not expecting a water user, so he pulled down some of the golems, and it turned out that such a plan was of the knowledgeable kid, Mare, who had created such a form in order to tire the man who was controlling those golems. Yumi then used a big wave through her water manipulation in order to engulf all the water golems into it. As soon as the task was completed, other candidates moved on their part of the play and attacked them head-on. Reading their strategy, Stone Gaia immediately cast another spell to raise small boulders from the ground and throw them directly at the candidates. It looked like they had planned for such an attack too, as Hashimoto immediately used telekinesis to stop those attacks, and before he could launch another one, he fell under the domination of Kanzaki. Strategy was in a free flow as Arashi immediately tried to punch him at the moment he was under domination, while he protected himself with a mud wall against that explosion, having no impact on his body as the punch was not able to break through the defense. Such a decoy acted in the right manner as Midu's snake passed from behind against that man and delivered a slash, thinking he was able to get him. However, Stone Gaia was even able to defend it with his heavy sword, so Hashimoto, using telekinesis, sent back those boulders to the Heavenly King in combination with Yumi's wind lance. That was a beautiful sight to see, and as they were attacking from all angles, he called upon the stone wall to expand. Yumi immediately used her water skill on that wall to make it wet and created a pool of wet mud. So using that little pool, everyone attacked him from each angle, and he was damaged with multiple attacks at once, including explosions, instant rushes, telekinesis, and wind lances. Finally, his defense was broken, so he decided to convert all of his defense mana into offense due to sheer anger. It looked like the diagnosis was using the same moment, and as he used the weak point identification, he launched a knife right to the Heavenly King's head, piercing it and making a fountain of blood. With that attack, the strong and heavy body of the Heavenly King fell to the ground, which made the hero candidates celebrate, believing that they had finally done it. Even though they believed that it was Midu and Arashi, the true self was already aware that it was not the doing of them. Arashi found the thrown knife beside that dead man's body, and he was pissed to know that the one who defeated him was Araji Kai from the leak in the ceiling. Midu was happy with the success of the plan and Yumi's help, yet he was aware that in the end, when the Heavenly King released all his mana, their plan looked like child's play, making Araji Kai intervene. Hashimoto asked the leader to just enjoy the victory they had at the moment, and so she pushed him inside the huddle so that he could handle the praises from every side. After a long time, the leader smiled, while the delinquent leader was still pissed. The delinquent was also joined by his group to make him smile. However, he was still in his character. One of his members read on the mood and already saw the attack. However, he praised the frontliners for pushing the Heavenly King to the corner, while that filthy man just stole the last move. Later, Midu sliced off the head of Stone Gaia to mark his victory in front of the other monsters and meet the soldiers. They celebrated the final battle. Henrik was also happy that they had done it, and from that day on, that fort was going to be under the command of the nation. Even though monsters were in higher numbers against the soldiers, they accepted defeat because once their leader was down, they could not show proper resistance. There was a clear explanation of the reason why no one showed after the defeat of Weiberg at that city. Araji Kai intervened in the battle before because he didn't want his classmates to be killed by the strong intent of the Heavenly Kings. It looked like he was acting as their daddy, being overprotective. In the meantime, he noticed that Mare was not calling him by name anyhow, and as she was provided with permission, her face turned red. Two of the Heavenly Kings were finally down, but they still needed to be careful as Isabel, another stronger being, was already on their run. This journey was going to be long for sure. On the other side of the story, the lady with cat ears was caught by someone who was impressed with the strength possessed in the form of self-reliability. He asked one of the monsters to read the message of catching the princess and defeat in the Beastman is underway. 1 week had passed from the subjugation battle, and the recent news had spread around the nation through newspapers, which had increased the morale of the knights. The hero candidate's fame had also increased a lot to the extent that they were called by the king, who paid his gratitude and awarded them the title of Lord as a knight. Inside the royal palace, when the ceremony was finally completed, those candidates were sitting with higher-ups at a table, and as Madhu showed signs of tiredness, he was marked by Amelia as getting old. Being from another world, he was not taught very well with respect to receiving awards and paying respect to the royal blood. Amelia told him about his future duties, which were going to arrive as a noble, telling him that since the nation was controlled by the church, his title was also approved by the Pope. In short, going forward, he was going to be the 11th Night Court Captain, also known as the Hero's Court commanding hero candidates. He had a few questions in mind, but Henrik, before telling him, said that he was too tired to understand the affairs of the state. The news of him becoming the captain had already reached Arajikai by the mouth of Kanzaki, and he understood that the kingdom was doing so to depict a picture in front of the audience that even the hero candidates were controlled by the church. Even though it looked like the heroes were acting on their own accord, in order to reach back to their homeland, higher in reality, all of them were acting just like pawns on the command of the church to fulfill their task. Kanzaki finally inquired about the girl standing adjacent to Arajikai, and he came to know that she was half-elf and a spellcaster. She further introduced herself as only a companion in the journey and called him by his first name. It was getting even more horrible between the exchanges of two friends. A little banter between all three of them continued for a while, and Kanzaki directly pointed out acting as his shadow in all the battles where she would act as a messenger. Kanzaki showed an emotion of traveling along with his side. However, his heart's demands were brought down as it was the only connection between him and the other candidates, so she was an important bond which was required to move freely. Even though others were fed up with him, Midu always looked at his face with high regard, and it was also believed by Arajikai, planning to make everyone as strong as he could because he had already seen the strength possessed by the higher-level demons. He even revealed defeating one of the other heavenly kings, which was a close call. Kanzaki was impressed with both of them taking down such a huge task, which took all the hero candidates along with him to complete. She was feeling a bit left out among the power possessed by the girl, and so Kanzaki reminded her of Isabel's words, telling her that there were others behind who were even stronger against what they had just faced. Simply asking Kanzaki to look around and be in contact regularly, he moved away while giving an instruction to inform Madhu that Arajikai was working on his way to defeat the Demon King. Both of them left the place. Kanzaki determined herself to be even stronger. After defeating one of the heavenly kings, that group had decided to start a large-scale invasion, and using the momentum they had created, and with high motivation, they were able to push back the front lines. With that, they were able to conquer most of the forts around Mount Uragano, and the city was liberated. Such a result was only possible because Weiberg, who was the custodian of the logistics, was also down. On one fine day, when there was a party going on and Nami was drinking himself into beer. Even after being a 15-year-old kid, he was just sure that it was not denied to that nation. Hashimoto and the guy stole that beer glass, while others just laughed at such a childish act. Even Nagase was soaking herself into drinks, and it looked like everyone else was discussing how fragile the state of command for the demons was, and the same feeling was in the head of Midu. All of their expectations of a trap were turned down, while Nagase believed that the demon armies were just a couple of idiots, and she never believed that Arajikai was the one behind all of it. Kanzaki protected him from the bad words, and the others were shocked with such information being revealed. Kanzaki told the complete information of him defeating another heavenly king by himself, and with the information, everyone started believing that he was the real monster with such strength, while Nagase was still not ready to believe that something like that was true. Arashi, on the other hand, was aware of what happened in the battle with Stone Gaia, so he just kept digging into the food without answering. Hashimoto and Nagase were playing sisters on that topic, while Arajikai was moving to the western territory of the city in the demonic kingdom's territory. On his way, he was facing furious monsters every now and then, and as some high goblins tried to attack him, he used mud through Genius Lee and ended their life using Thundershock. However, another one turned out to be more majestic and tried to deliver a bold attack on his head, only to meet his death with the salamander spirit burning him to ashes. Pro-diagnostic magic was not doing great at the moment, and even though it was rare with the thunder element, he needed to operate in a faster manner and a powerful one. He could have done it if he had some divine protection of magic, and so the only way he could mature was using it with a clear image of casting. That is a clear image of the phenomena in which he wanted his magic to act. He took all the knowledge from that blabbering mouth and revealed the reason for getting a new power to defeat the Demon King, which was making him learn magic. He was happy with the disciple being by his side for the training, and just then, he felt a different kind of sensation running through his head as he found himself surrounded by a number of goblins, quite double or triple in small sizes. As it further revealed, it turned out to be a stampede with numerous monsters joining in the battle against those two. Arajikai immediately used Thundershock against all of them, and even though it had a little impact, it was not able to take down the goblins at once. Firepower was still lacking, and relying on the moment, one of the goblins tried to attack him from behind, making him dodge and reach the tree. He immediately went on the move, and with continuous movement, he made the monsters confused and then attacked them with throwing knives to their weak points. It was a simple method for him, and he was thinking of mastering the magic skill to have in the meantime. Another monster tried to attack him from behind, just to be decapitated by the men in mid through a slice. He immediately infused his body with mana and started slicing other monsters without any threat to his body. During all that time, he was maintaining a continuous distance while traveling on trees, and as one of the orgs noticed that he broke that trunk, at the moment Araji-kai fell down, he noticed that the number of monsters he was facing was quite tremendous. At this time, even the boss was also among them. On the other hand, Mare was also using her salamander spirit to burn down those monsters. However, she was a little frustrated with the tremendous number of them coming in. Both of them decided to head out of the place. However, the moment Araji-kai moved, he had already sliced every one of them, including the boss. Both of them started running, and Mare told him in between that high-level monsters could control the lower ones, making that place only suitable for demons. Soon, both of them reached a dead end. As they looked downwards, they found that the place was really the dietary of the demonic kingdom, truly troublesome. As 1 week passed, even the holy knights decided to intervene in the demonic kingdom, and they reached to face the stampede by themselves. However, this time it was completely different from what they had faced earlier, since their rankings were quite higher. Soldiers were becoming the bait, while hero candidates and knights were taking down the number. All of them realized that since those people were being attacked by all kinds of monsters, the clear identification was that all of them were being controlled by a high-ranking demon. It turned out to be the same as we could see a black lady with white hair and 2 horns holding wine, taking the command. Introduced to be Elsa, her plan was to make them exhaust and start the counterattack. As soon as it was noticed by the leader, he called upon his men to retreat, and so everyone followed it. Monsters turned out to be victorious, with soldiers' bodies on the ground, and each of them praised Elsa for being quite a cunning lady. The battle against the Beastman was already completed, so it was going to be humans' chance, and by this time, it looked like the monsters were going to be more cautious among any other species. That complete conversation was being heard by Araji-kai and Mare, and reading the situation, Araji-kai asked for more explanation about the same. As it turned to the next day, we could see fallen soldiers being monitored by the recovery team, while the higher-ups were having a meeting in the chamber alone. They gave the complete news of their miserable defeat and then asked for suggestions on coming out of that situation. Everyone was aware that the major issue was how to counter the endless swarm of demons, while Henrik understood that even the demons were forming strategies and were not taking humans that lightly the way they were taking them before. They truly were a cunning lady taking command from behind. Others also feared that there was a huge number of monsters inside the forest. In order to defeat them, they wanted to lure those monsters out of the forest. There was no way that the leader commanding those monsters would let that happen, so higher-ups decided to regroup to lower the casualties they had faced in liberating the city. In any way, it was sure that they could not just use moral and martial strength to take down the monsters. They had to face them in that forest. Maibe was at a loss for words, so Hashimoto interrupted and confirmed their true intentions of defeating the Demon King and gave them a suggestion of increasing their army. In a male regard, it was going to be hard, as it would only slow down the process because they could not get divine protection from anyone like normal soldiers. Maidu immediately interrupted to increase the number of elite forces, but the problem was they would not be able to find a single one who could lead the front lines in that nation for sure. Training was the only way out, and even though it was time-consuming, it was the finest one. Henrik agreed at once, and finally, after such a long time, Midu found the gap of understanding that the hero candidate's role and the kingdom's goal were totally different. Even though both of them wanted to defeat the Demon King, both of them had different reasons for trying to solve their own problems so that they could maintain their status. And seeing him in thought, Henrik confirmed. Maida, without hesitation, said that by the way they were discussing, it would take a number of years. Amelia confirmed the count to be 2 years in order to train them into elite soldiers. Reading the restlessness, Henrik interrupted to tell the boy that in order to do it quickly, they need to be patient, while the others were finding it required to succeed in liberating the nation and thanking the hero candidates for such pleasure. Even though the candidates wanted to head back home as soon as they could, the decision was final that it would take 2 more years. When they moved out, Henrik read on the face of the leader, so he tried to make him understand that such a decision was for the better cause on both sides. Henrik wanted to tell him that the more he would hurry, the more his chances to die would increase, and he himself believed that there was still room for their development, so they should take their time for preparation. Hashimoto agreed with the saying to remember the time when Henrik came out to rescue them when they had moved without any proper planning. Henrik believed that they were much stronger than the Heavenly King, and in reality, with the strength that the hero candidates possessed at the moment, it was nothing in front of them. Midow's face changed finally, and with the intention of not letting his friends die, he informed them about it, and the right choice was only to take time to build up their body and strength, and then after defeating the Demon King, reach back home. However, the moment that message reached the other hero candidates, they were shocked, and the only true answer for them was heading back to their home after 2 years. Mido tried his best to make them understand the real way out, and somehow Arashi did not like such a bad joke played right on his face. Mido understood his words, but he wanted to say that they need to move on by themselves in order to defeat the Demon King. Arashi's belief was that those guys were really not necessary, and for the first time in the complete Manhwa, we could see Mido getting angry at such a declaration. Change the point of thought of everyone with the line that they need to defeat the Demon King, not the Demon Army. However, Minu believed that such a victory would only come at the cost of someone's life, and he was not ready to take it. There was a clash between both of the leaders, that is, the delinquent leader and the real leader, and as expected, the delinquent lost his calmness first and tried to attack him with an explosion. So Minu too took out his sword to act as a shield, move, and defended himself against that explosion. Such a thing had no impact on his body, so Minu again asked Arashi to train for the meantime before heading further. Just out of nowhere, before they could head further, both of them were tied in chains, and it turned out that Kanzaki was the one using domination power on both of them. Arashi was just annoyed with that act and broke through the domination, and there was a huge level of difference between the thinking of both of the leaders. However, most of the agreement was with Midow's thought process. Numerous classmates supported Midow's thought, and their terms out one of the culprits in the form of Kari, who took the side of Arashi because she wanted to get back home as soon as she could. She was remembering the condition of her mother and never wanted to leave her alone. There were a few other candidates who agreed with Arashi because there was someone waiting at home for them, which is why they were private in their reach back over their own lives without any thought. None of them were ready to make them wait on the other side of the wall for more than 2 years. It also turned out that one of them, the delinquent, also took their side, and Akira believed that being on the side of the brave rather than being on the side of the coward was better. Mido was left in awe while Arashi believed in moving on his own way, taking the sides of the majority of classmates behind him. All who supported moved out with no one left behind, who decided to be the messenger between both the parties. Kanzaki was not able to think of a way out from it, and she believed in the sides of Arashi due to her grandfather's condition. At night, Arashi's group was already planning the attack with horses and ammunition, but before they could move, they heard the voice of Araji Kai approaching them, raising their temperature for a certain peak. Arashi being pissed at the reason for his arrival, and the others were also not looking happy with his face. Being convenient, they asked both of them not to create any kind of scene, while Araji Kai instantly asked him to lend his strength at once, as seen in the flashback. It was visible that Araji Kai was viewing the complete clash between the hero candidates, and for the first time he was finding both the logic to be suitable at the moment. One way it was too active, while on the other side, that is the approach from the kingdom was too passive. Arashi's approach was riskier, and there were only 3 ways of getting out of such a dilemma, where the first one stands of changing the way of thinking of higher-ups at the cost of their own exile right now. Anyhow, Minu was not going to agree with that, so the second one was using guerrilla tactics, instead of fighting them head-on, as the demonic kingdom was not unified, and they could use that reason to ignite a civil war. But in this case, Arashi was not that capable. The third and final way was to move on the information they had received in the past battle, which would make the kingdom army move at once. Turning back to the present, we could see a bonfire burning with a round table conference held, and Araji Kai was telling them about the princess of the feline beastmen. Actually, she was the princess who was caught by the demonic army. In the middle of the information, every candidate was having a different kind of thought all along, while Arashi was not able to understand why they were discussing and bringing up the topic of a beastman. There was a country in the Southern Territory, which was neutral, one having no stands on demons and humans. His plan was to take help from them because they had quite stronger soldiers having higher physical abilities and were the ones who had stopped the invasion multiple times. Even though they were strong, their strength was not enough to defeat the Demon King, and the only way possible out was joining hands with them in the eyes of Araji Kai. At the moment, they needed to rescue her and use her as a bargaining chip, while Araji Kai had already gained the information of the supply road. It was going to be Arashi, while Araji Kai will act in the shadows. Another classmate was much more worried if the Holy Kingdom was not shaking hands with the Federation, and the only answer was humans' behavior towards them, who suppressed and acted mainly against them. The beastmen were also heeding humans due to their nature, so it was always going to be difficult for them to deal with, and it was the reason they were trying to get a bargaining chip in the form of the princess to create a convenient situation for them. Such a suggestion was looking quite good, and while no one was having any kind of objection, she was just pissed off at Araji Kai acting almighty by sticking his nose in every discussion. He was ready to get into a battle, and that is why, reminded by his subordinate of thinking about other lives and so, left with no other choice, he just decided to go with the plan. All of them combined bent on the expedition to the south in order to meet the group, who was heading away from the south while taking the princess. The destination was the middle of the forest, and there were no roads due to unavailability of a trading tree. They could easily pinpoint using marks of their movement. The question still stands if they could be found before the bush. However, it was not to worry because Araji Kai had found the way where they were. There would be no such existence. Wagons could also be protected using the skills of one of their classmates, who had dimensional space. Tomoko was just happy with such praise on herself, and it was then revealed that Araji Kai was infiltrating and reading on the demonic territory all that time while taking down monsters. Secondly, the result with all that came out to be similar, where they just need to defeat the Demon King in order to mark their way back to the world. All of them were talking and taking it leisurely, so Arashi pounded all of them and asked them to increase their pace of movement. As the night fell, they were seen walking on legs, and soon they were surrounded by monsters in the form of gray wolves. All of them tried to attack at once. The first kill was taken by the steel-bodied kid with a punch on the wolf's gut. Supporting orders immediately popped out, and they started taking down monsters with their skills and protection. The one who had non-combat skills, she also decided to test her skill on one of them and then busted it away with the help of an explosion, making it deep fry and fall on the ground. Araji Kai was relieved with such a great show of power, and in the meantime, all of them had left one of the wolves who breached their defense and tried to attack Arashi from behind. Out of sudden, Mare interrupted and burned that wolf using the power of the salamander, protecting the guy from any damage. Everyone was impressed, however. Arashi was just pissed with such an intervention and called her a woman of Araji Kai. She flustered, and a dead moment came into a tension with the others who started praising the girl for her firepower. Araji Kai was happy that she finally found some friends in real life, as such an experience was also required. They finally reached their destination, and finding the place, decided to make it a hideout. Araji Kai used his sight skill to find the cave and informed all of them about the availability of 3 low-ranked demons, 15 mid-ranked demons, with the account increasing inside the wagon. Among all of them, there was a high-ranking one leading them from the front, introduced to be Zaganda. Even though he was not strong as the Heavenly King, he was strong enough for the hero candidates. Arashi decided to take on that man by himself, so Araji Kai revealed the plan in front of everyone. First, he should act to draw their attention, and the others will attack the demons and freemen squads. Support staff will help, and Ozaki will protect the wounded. Mare was given the protection of the rear, and Arashi will deal with the higher-ranked demons. Araji Kai was going to sneak behind to evacuate the princess, and the rest will act on the situation. All the fight was left to Arashi. Seeing his confidence in such a declaration shocked others. His delinquent friend tried to protect him with orders from the man, and he smacked both of them, telling everyone that they were going to follow the same plan. Back at the convoy, demons were already tired from continuous walks and asking for a little rest, while Zaganda denied it. It was expected because he himself was feeling tired, so he found another way out by checking the condition of the prisoner, telling them to move forward with their guard up. While doing so, he immediately headed inside the wagon and found the princess sitting helplessly and introduced her to Bisina. He sat like an uncle and told her about being present in the North location, soon to be relieved after the Beast Federation agrees on the terms. Sina was sure that they were not going to, until they handed her over to them and further called them stupid to think that they could break down the morale of the beastmen with such a little capture. Zagana got pissed, and his pervertness erupted from his heart, so for the first step, he snatched that young lady's cover and started licking his face to have some fun. Destiny had something else planned, so his intentions were stopped in the middle with a bright explosion outside the wagon. When he turned around, he found information that they were being attacked by the humans. Arashi was playing his role in a fine manner as the bait, and Zengada immediately asked their men to counterattack. In any case, those boys were not enough to face the hero candidates, and seeing themselves losing, he was quite stressed. Arashi took the moment and approached that man while he himself cast his spear out of his hand. There the little banter between both of them began, with one having explosion power and the other having a spear thrust in his hand. As their attacks collided, Zengada mocked Arashi for his firepower and pushed him away. The hero candidate realized the toughness and decided on the further plan, realizing that he had only 7 left with such power explosions. He needed to keep the count because any decrease would not let him keep his space with the enemy, and so he decided to aim for the heart after creating a particular gap as the final attack. Zengada was stunned to see such a man having intense divine force and further decided to be cautious. He understood that they were aiming at rescuing the princess, so he had guarded the wagon with a lot more soldiers than any other place himself to make the decisive move to defeat the leader. And so he rushed forward with his spear of flash, thrusting against the man at intense speed, making Arashi dodge by a second. That moment, the man was standing on the landmines cast by Arashi, and as soon as he activated them, he started burning inside. The horse was not able to keep up with those, and due to the explosion, a smokescreen was created, blocking his vision. So Arashi passed away from behind and ambushed him with an explosion. However, it was of no use as the high-ranked demon noticed it and countered with a wild thrust, making Arashi fall on his own back with intense impact. Others were pretty concerned, and even though it hurt, it was not enough to take down the man. And such a matter was even concerning for the high demon. He was relieved that he could just counter his fighting style by creating sufficient space between both of them, as his explosion would not work if it was not touching something. Zangada again started using the wild thrust while Arashi continuously dodged, and he was maintaining the distance at a continuous level. The high-ranked demon had a laugh on his face, but it was not the right one because as soon as Arashi got the chance, he raised his hand and attacked the man with cannon fire, stunning him even more. At the moment he increased it to the maximum, one explosion was pinpointed to the heart of the high demon, and as the smoke cleared, he fell on the floor without any movement. It was revealed that Arashi had gained a new skill of divine protection in the form of cannon fire. Hero candidates were happy. However, the demons were restless, and as soon as their formation was broken, the support staff took their chance to take down the monsters at once. Araji Kai was moving as per the plan and reached the wagon to find the lady sitting helplessly. She was stunned to see a human trying to help her. Araji Kai immediately took out the knife and relieved her from her handcuffs, while telling her that those humans wanted to use her for their own gain. She was not going to lie in any case, and that gave the reason for the princess to use her partial best vacation and try to attack Araji Kai. As expected, Araji Kai dodged completely and went on his guard while facing the girl and praising the ability of the beastmen. Out of sudden, he used his power of Thundershock and made her fall on the ground with that magic, starting to resist her by catching her hand. That attack was to disable the enemy, and a question was on the mind of the girl, how a human could be that strong. She was ready to be with the humans who obey their orders. While on the other hand, there was only one monster left to be taken down by the hero candidates, as the final one was left. Chainami used her stem skill to raise him upside down against a tree, and Arashi told that demon to deliver a message to the king that he was going to be killed with his head chopped off cleanly. All of them then again raised a bonfire and started enjoying food from the wagons while acting like bandits. Sina was also served with her own portion of food, but she was not eating, as she didn't find it well to be treated in such a good manner. Araji Kai was harsh again on his words, just ordering her to eat, and she did the same. The moment she tasted it, she found it quite delicious, and the other girls liked her expression on her face. Mare, on the other hand, inquired about the way she was captured, and she told the story that she fell short against the king's army while hunting stunningly. Those demons were quite inside the Federation because they were planning to invade it, and the only truth behind it was that they wanted to control the world. Thena directly asked the question about their true intention, and Araji Kai, being blunt, revealed that she needed to act like their bargaining chip because they want the help of the Federation to defeat the Demon King. He even revealed the reason for such a task, and so she understood that all of them were the candidates summoned from another world. The princess gave her assurance to help them because they rescued her, and she also wanted to push away the demons from the Federation. It was then when she revealed at her hand's test that there was a spy in the high ranking of the Federation. As soon as the task was completed, they reached back to the city while Maibu was sharpening his sportsmanship skills. Negeis arrived to tell them about the return of Arashi's party, and on the other hand, all of them were under command by the soldiers to run away and come back with calm faces. Arashi just asked them to call Amelia for a discussion, while the soldiers were continuously stuck on making them prisoners. There was no way that those men could do such a task of defeating the hero candidates, and so in order to protect them, Kanzaki used domination to stop the soldiers. While they were stunned, they wondered if she was also betraying them. Narumi calmed them down for a discussion, and all of them agreed, pissing off Arashi on his true character. All of them were going to discuss the matters in a calm place, and so they were moved inside the conference room to have the discussion. This time, Arashi was between them with his legs folded over the table. Higher officers didn't like such an attitude, but Arashi was in no mood to change that for their own sake. He decided to pay a little respect and lowered his leg while calling in Tsunami along with the princess of the beastmen Sina. Her introduction was properly given to the table as being the princess, while everyone was stunned by it. She even confirmed it while telling them that they were the ones who rescued her from the demons while she was being moved to the demonic territory. Arashi presented an offer for them to bargain for the cooperation of the Federation for their army because they are not going to wait for 2 years. Understanding the situation, she was ready to discuss with the higher-ups, with the princess being on their hand. There was no way that the nation was going to let go of half of the hero candidates with Arashi being the main character holding such immense power in his hands. The demand was pretty clear that they were going to get on the move to the demonic territory as soon as they got their hands on the Federation. Even though it was not a bad deal, the kingdom was also ready to work with it. Sina too had a request of luring out the demons inside the Federation in return, and Midu gave her the assurance on the same. Henrik was sharp with questions. However, Arashi dodged it, telling them that such information was revealed after interrogating the demons they caught. As 1 week passed, the kingdom was finally sending a letter to the Federation for discussion, and it was a moment of joy for the hero candidates. 4 people were heading for the task, including Midao, Nagase, Kanzaki, and Narumi. Everyone was having their own trade for the departure, and the leader was going to be Henrik. They were heading in total with a people of 30. Arashi was taking a calm place because he was not good at negotiation, and Hashimoto was going to act as the sub-cute squad leader. In absence of the main leader, Araji Kai was also heading into the Federation, but not with the convoy for sure. As the day of departure arrived, the leader decided to lead the way along with the hero candidates, and they were going to travel for a bit with a surprising member among them, Nagase. She was there to keep check on Narumi and majorly Maidu from acting recklessly. Nagase was aware that Araji Kai was also coming, and she was aware of Henrik. As expected, both of them were heading for their way while hiding in the bushes, telling them because he had no more confidence in the maps. The more they walked, the more suspicious Kanzaki was acting, so Henrik finally asked her the reason behind the same. She acted cutely, being afraid of the monsters, and Henrik somehow did not like such an attitude. He turned to Maidu's distance with the arrival of Arashi, and there was still a question in his head about how they got the information of the princess abduction. It's just because everything was so fast that a dumb head like Arashi could not pull off such a thing all by himself. In short, he had the concern that someone was moving in the shadows, gathering the information. With the sudden change in the expression of Midao, he got the answer, and Narumi was worried because he was aware that a culprit from the kingdom was acting in that manner, surely bound to receive punishment if caught. At this time, Nagase came to the rescue. However, it looked like Henrik was already aware that the one acting behind the shadows was none other than Araji Kai, or the so-called Saint Killer. Such information was confirmed by the leader, however. Henrik was not going to give him a punishment, and he himself was thankful for the death of that woman. He even had concerns that the man was watching them with the behavior of Kanzaki, and as they moved behind to confirm the same, she was not left with any kind of answer, and her face turned pale. And Araji Kai realized that everything was revealed, so he himself came out from the bushes, and the beastman even told that he was the one who rescued her. Araji Kai was impressed with the guy reaching the conclusion with such small information, and Henrik even confirmed if he was the man who killed Winberg. There was a lot of change in the information, and the most pissed among all of them turned out to be Nagase. She was not calming herself down even after the interference and continuously calling him a traitor, asking him to say something. Araji Kai acted more calmly, making her raise her own temperature, and she cast a fire spell right on his face and tried to attack him. Mare too went on her guard, and before Kanzaki could use her domination magic, fire collided with Araji Kai, stunning everyone with the immense smoke. As the smoke cleared, Araji Kai somehow dodged it and threw Nagase on the floor with a beam, making her cast even more fireballs. Out of the blue, Araji Kai too used the thunder magic to immobilize her spell and made her fall on the ground with no movement. Nagase was stunned, and she even had to face criticism from the man for not working properly on her body. Maida realized that Araji Kai had grown significantly right now, while Nagase was firm on her decision of not accepting it. She was getting furious once again, so Kanzaki used her domination magic to make her stand still. As the night fell, all of them settled with their camp and made Henrik understand why they were forced to kill the lady who was forcing them to do tasks which were not meant for them. There were 2 halves of the hero candidates, one believing that he did the right thing, while the other believing that he was not so good on the task. Nagase was one of the members of the other group, never ever ready to believe that he did it for the classmates. She had another doubt that he was not ready to return to the home while keeping a cute lady by his side, which flustered even Mare, forming such connections with each other. Maido came to the discussion to ask for help from Araji Kai. It was even not minded by Henrik, who was ready to fabricate reports for the same. Nagase somehow agreed to play in the game, and even Araji Kai agreed, as all of their final goals were the same. Later at night, Araji Kai had a doubt on Henrik and his loyalty because even if someone is trusted, no one could be trusted with everything. Maidu had his own reasons for telling the truth and showed Araji Kai that it was the method chosen by the leader and there was no way out. After that, the delegation kept walking for days, and when they were about to reach the place, Anna suggested they visit the city nearest to the border. At that moment, their convoy was attacked, and as the scene cleared, we could see them totally surrounded by beastmen, trying to take command over them. The leader of the group called for more of her subordinates, asking their reasons for the visit, and they were completely surrounded. Maidu somehow calmed all of them down, telling them of an alliance with the Federation, while the beastmen were not ready to have something like that with the ones who had treated them badly. Sina finally revealed herself to the leader, and as she popped out from the wagon, she informed them that she was rescued by those humans. They were ready to return her. However, it looked like Rune was in no mood to listen to the conversation, and Sir Henrik was forced to give the command to engage in battle with no intention to kill Sina. Harshal gave insight about her group, asking Araji Kai to decapitate her without killing, and he delegated that task to Maidu, while Maidu happily agreed for it. He conquered the event and started taking down those individuals with bare-hand skill and instant movement. None of them were able to cope with that, and Kanzaki was the one going to handle the rear archer with domination skills, and she was successful in it. Others jumped from the trees, and Mare called upon the self-spirit to push them away with her magic. Nagase, on the other hand, refrained from fighting and getting involved in the battle as her flames could be really dangerous due to lack of control. Rune realized that she was going to lose, but even so, she did not hurt with the calm words might have presented and tried to attack him with the sword, only to get caught by 2 fingers and left with shivering hands. Sina came forward, asking her to listen to the humans, and as the story was completed, all the beasts bent on their knees to apologize for whatever they had done. She continuously apologized even after getting appreciation from the leader and their Araji Kai, who directly suggested the formation of an alliance between both the nations. Further, he showed his interest in meeting with the higher-ups for the same. Sina agreed to it, and they decided to take her back to the capital, and there was an emotional meeting between the 2 of the friends. After that, the complete delegation was treated with proper respect, and they were headed to meet the chief of the parliament, which was an organization that leads the country. It was a huge building, even more attractive than the real parliament, stunning even the hero candidates with its size. They could not move further from that location as they needed the permission of the councils of the parliament. So Midu decided to take the task into his own hands. There were some of the highest level people walking in the capital city, and they somehow did not look happy with the arrival of the humans at the place. Chatter was continuously going on, and Araji Kai felt that, rather than hate, a feeling of fear was emerging from those beastmen. Marubi found it a natural reaction, while Henrik believed that they were going to be hated by the chief whom they were going to meet. Soon, the leader of the Federation came out, having brown hair and a robe on his body. Inquiring about her daughter, he was too glad to see that she was really fine. That man reconfirmed after the emotional meeting. If a human saved her, and she replied positively to it with greater gratitude, he introduced himself as Alto, Sina's father, and thanked them for saving her. Henrik also gave a proper introduction, and then the discussion moved to the formal table in the parliament with beastmen sitting on one side and the humans on the other. Araji Kai conveyed the proposal, asking them to accept it, and Alto agreed immediately because they saved their daughter. Then comments started coming from the other chiefs, with Edgar on the right side, while Camilo was on the left, not ready to be a part of the alliance. She was even supported by the Fishman tribe. Max and the Document tribe also agreed with the left community, while deciding on handing them over good rewards for saving them. All of them were fed up with the discrimination they faced in previous times, and it was the time that he got support from the other chief. Henrik told them that their goal was pretty much the same, and Max stood from his seat, denying providing any kind of help. Edgar, being calm and composed, inquired about the type of help they were seeking, and as Henrik hesitated, Menu told them that they wanted to complete the task at once by beheading the Demon King. Such a declaration was not so common, and it made even the others go silent. Edgar was impressed, and he had a weird laugh on his face. Maidu once again repeated the sentence of defeating the Demon King and asked for their help, and Alto also believed that they should accept the proposal for help. Edgar instantly agreed because he knew that if the whole kingdom was defeated, then the Federation would be the next. The bird tribe leader did not agree because she had no trust in humans, and the same was true with the fishmen. Neil also denied forming the corporation even after being the one who already decided to help humans. There was maturity against denial. So Edgar played a fine move, asking them to give time to think, and decided to hold the decision for a while. Alto agreed and called all of them for a treat at his place, while the other Beastmen chiefs were stiff with their decision. Araji Kai immediately used his appraisal on Neil to gain some info. Since then, they turned to the feline tribe's chief mansion, where a feast was prepared and served on the dining table for the guests in the form of humans. Alto was continuously thanking them for saving his child. However, the food served on the table was not something a human could eat. Araji Kai was enjoying the shrimp, and so was Mare. Marubi was living on drinks, and Alto too came to the point to tell them that it looked like the demons were already inside the capital and had quite a handful of insider information, and it was the only clear information behind the abduction of his child. Other individuals had a different take, as they had quite strict security, and it looked like they were denying the call of the princess. Alto also agreed with the sayings of that man due to the keen sense of smell, and so the only answer at the moment was the presence of a spy among them. Araji Kai interfered to tell them that there truly was a man who was providing information outside the Federation, and at that moment other individuals were not able to take those words, and being in sheer anger, stood from the dining table. Alto immediately scolded the man, and he humbly apologized for his behavior, only that the man was not having any kind of trace while finding Sina, and it was the reason he had quite more confidence that there was someone controlling from inside as the discussion continued for a while. Narubi finally spoke up that there was a traitor among the high ranks of the parliament. In any way, Alto could not take that topic amongst the discussion with just a little information, and he commanded Sina to not move out of the mansion in the meantime. Such a concern was pretty useful. However, not much important for Mido, so he asked about the discussion of the alliance. Alto could not do anything as he did not have the power of changing the beliefs of the other, and at the moment they had a lower majority against the ones in denial about the alliance. Still, Alto was ready to give his best in changing the minds of the others, and Hemric was ready to play a part in it. At night, Arajikai was the one who was not able to sleep inside the comfy bed, so he consulted to help him roam around the city to gather information. At that moment, he instantly discussed with her about what he saw on the status screen, Niels, which showed the status of being brainwashed. At that moment, he even revealed the power of his eyes and was also aware that beastmen were not able to use magic like the others. It truly was the doing of the demon, and Sina also remembered that the way of his talking was quite weird that day. As they didn't have quite full evidence, they could not discuss the matter directly with the chief. However, Sina believed that his father would believe him because he was the one who saved his daughter's life. Out of sudden, Alto entered the conversation, telling that not only the smell, but also the hearing sense was quite louder for them. He was ready to act as per the sayings of Araji Kai, because he too felt that the boy was acting weirdly in today's meeting. Raijin was able to gain the support of the leader in the alliance, and so Araji Kai had planned on gathering the information about the canine tribe by the next day, leaving the discussion with the others.